Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobooks. One Piece, The Dimensional Synthesizer of Marin. Chapter 1. Some readers say that the protagonist is timid in the early stage. He is not timid in the later stage. Please be patient or skip the chapters. In the year 1520 of the Haiwan calendar, it was a sunny day, and the sun was shining on the earth, forming a warm color. At this moment, a spherical shield fell from the sky. A few hours later, the person who just fell from the sky opened his eyes with difficulty. The man looked around and said in a daze, "Where is this?" Everywhere he looked was a wasteland, and there was not even a decent weed. "This. I seem to be sleeping at home just now, how come I am here? Where the hell is this?" Just when the man was about to collapse, a synthesized electronic sound suddenly sounded in his head. Ding! Congratulations to the host, Rorschach, for successfully crossing the pirate world. As soon as the voice in his head fell, time seemed to stand still, and Rorschach's head seemed to be hit by a heavy hammer. Doin' sound. What? See? Pirate world. Yes, host, you are now on an uninhabited island in the East China Sea. Luoxia's mouth twitched and he didn't know what to say for a while. Then, what system are you? Luoxia asked. Ding! Dimensional synthesis system is at your service. As long as you can think of it, there is nothing that cannot be synthesized. Following the guidance of the system, Zhang Kai's hands gradually began to glow, and gradually his entire hands emitted a green light. Soon a senbei appeared in front of him. Zhang Qi widened his eyes in disbelief. Is this what I synthesized? After saying that, Zhang Qi pointed to his nose. Yes, host, the skill of rubbing senbei with hands is a gift to you. Zhang Qi immediately grasped the key point. Gift? What about the novice gift package? Ding! Congratulations to the host for getting the novice gift package. Do you want to open it? Zhang Qi nodded fiercely. Open, open. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the nature system, Flame Fruit ×1. Congratulations for obtaining the Great Sword 21, Tiger Hunter. Rewards have been distributed. Zhang Qi was speechless as he looked at the two system rewards that appeared out of thin air. Is this the flame fruit? The kind that even dogs won't eat? Luoxia pouted and put it down in disdain, and then Zhang Qi looked at the knife. Ka! Luoxia pulled out the Tiger Hunter, which looked particularly dazzling under the sunlight. The overall appearance of the Tiger Hunter is black and blue, the blade is a large reverse T-shaped blade, and there are purple serrated patterns on the blade. Luoxia fell in love with this knife completely at a glance. Suddenly, an idea came to Luoxia's mind, and then he looked at the flame fruit and then looked at the Tiger Hunter. Rorschach grinned and took the two things in his hand. Since I don't eat devil fruits, I can't waste them. Rorschach muttered. A blue light appeared in Rorschach's hand, and the blue light spread directly to the Tiger Hunt and the flame fruit along Rorschach's palm. In the moment of spreading, a strong blue light bloomed. At this time, Rorschach only had a knife in his hand, and the original flame fruit had disappeared. Rorschach wiped his eyes to make sure he was not dazzled, and then he looked at the Tiger Hunt in his hand seriously. At this time, the Tiger Hunt was completely different from the previous one. The appearance of the Tiger Hunt was black and blue, but now there were 3 more flame patterns on the appearance of this knife. This surprised Rorschach. And the original pattern on the blade also turned red and purple, which was very beautiful. Luoxia scratched his head, but it seems that this is no different from before. Since it is a natural fruit, I wonder if this knife can change its shape freely. As soon as Luoxia asked the question, he saw the Tiger Hunter in his hand turned into a red and black bracelet and directly wrapped around Luoxia's wrist. Luoxia's eyes widened in disbelief. It really works. Then, restore it to its original state. Instantly, the Tiger Hunter, which was just a bracelet, returned to Luoxia's hand. Luoxia nodded with satisfaction, immediately pulled out the Tiger Hunter, and slashed it fiercely towards the sea. As Luoxia swung his sword hard towards the sea, a flame-like sword energy came out from the Tiger Hunter knife. Wow! This is amazing! I didn't expect that something I suddenly thought of would actually work. Luoxia couldn't suppress his excitement and started eating the synthesized senbei in his hand. He nodded while eating, not bad, it's worthy of Garp Sengoku's favorite food. A few minutes later, Luoxia's excitement finally subsided. It's time to leave this isolated island. Although I don't know if it's dangerous outside, I will starve to death sooner or later in this place. But the next second, just when Luoxia was about to get up, a mechanical synthesized sound suddenly sounded in Luoxia's mind. Ding! Triggering a random task. Host, please survive on the isolated island for 1 year. Success reward, system space. Failure penalty, a divine thunder. What? Live, for 1 year. Luoxia couldn't sit still when he heard the random task of the system. This island is an isolated island, it would be strange if he didn't jump up and down. Luoxia, who had been yelling for half an hour, finally accepted the reality. He couldn't resist the power of a divine thunder, so he had to accept it. While Luoxia was eating senbei in his mouth, he explored the island. As he went deeper, Luoxia gradually saw some of the conditions of this isolated island. The island is not just covered with yellow earth. In front of Rorschach there is a huge rock, which is more like a mountain. When Rorschach turned over the other half of the mountain, his eyes lit up. There was a green in front of him. With his excellent eyesight, Rorschach even found a few creatures similar to rabbits. This discovery gave Rorschach the confidence to survive on this island for a year. Ha ha ha, God will not let me, Rorschach. Chapter 2. A year later, on an unknown island in the East China Sea, a man with messy long hair and only a pair of shorts on his body was lying on his back on a high mountain. There was something like a watchtower made of wood on the mountain. This man was Luoxia. Compared with the immaturity a year ago, Luoxia has become much more stable and his strength has also improved. Luoxia was biting a senbei in his mouth and staring at the sea in the distance, as if he was expecting something. He had robbed a small pirate group before and took their food. In this year, Luoxia only robbed 3 pirate groups. At that time, he thought he could keep robbing, but the East China Sea was indeed the weakest sea, and there were not many pirates. Maybe it was because of Garp, but it didn't stop Luoxia from thinking so. Hey, so boring. Luoxia was bored playing with the senbei in his hand, but the next second Luoxia narrowed his eyes, as if he saw something treasure. I saw a ship approaching slowly from a distance, but I didn't know what ship it was, but Luoxia knew that as long as there were good things on the ship, he would have to rob it. Luoxia's wrist shook instantly, and the bracelet that was originally wrapped around Luoxia's wrist quickly changed back to its original tiger hunting appearance. Luoxia took the long sword out of its sheath, and swung it forward with force for dozens of times, and the blazing flaming sword shadow slashed directly at the ship in the distance. Although the swordsmanship I have practiced this year is not enough to cut off a large ship, I am still somewhat confident in dealing with a small boat. Luoxia murmured. In the distance, a group of soldiers on a dog-headed warship all stared at the flaming sword shadows approaching in front of them with wide eyes, and they were all dumbfounded, staring at these sword shadows blankly. There was an old man with white hair sleeping soundly on the recliner, and suddenly the bubbles on his nose burst instantly, and the old man on the recliner also looked at the approaching sword shadows. The old man shouted, "Everyone retreat!" After that, the old man disappeared on the spot, and his feet stepped hard to make the place where he just stood leak. The old man used a strong punch to directly defeat the sword shadow that Rorschach had just slashed. If Rorschach was here, he would definitely recognize who this person is, but unfortunately Rorschach's eyes are not telescopes. This person is the Vice Admiral of the Navy Headquarters, Monkey D. Garp. Rorschach wants to attack his ship, which is really like an old man eating arsenic, and he thinks his life is too long. As soon as Garp landed, his adjutant Bogart said, "Vice Admiral Garp, there are people on that isolated island, and the slash just now was sent by the people on the island." "Vice Admiral Garp, should we go and take a look?" Garp moved his neck and made a clicking sound. "Of course. Remember that there was no one on that isolated island last time I came here, but this time there is a swordsman there." Garp grinned, obviously he was very interested. "Everyone, full speed." As the order was issued, the dog-headed warship also headed towards the isolated island at full speed. However, Rorschach, who was lying leisurely on the watchtower, had no idea that he was about to encounter danger. "I guess those pirates I just killed into the sea should be coming soon. Come quickly so that I can rob you," Rorschach thought excitedly. About 3 minutes later, the dog-headed warship stopped by the isolated island, and Garp jumped directly from the warship. As soon as he jumped off, he looked around. Suddenly Garp looked at the watchtower, which was where Rorschach rested. Rorschach, who was originally thinking about how to reason and rob with emotion, suddenly sat up. He just felt as if he was stared at by a beast. Rorschach looked around, but in the process, he and Garp met eyes. A sentence suddenly popped up in Rorschach's mind. It's over, why is Garp here? Garp, who was looking at Rorschach, laughed, I found you, brat, you dare to attack my warship, wait for my iron fist to beat you. In almost the blink of an eye, Garp seemed to be in front of Rorschach in an instant. Rorschach stared at Garp blankly, as if he was stunned, and didn't move at all. It's not that he doesn't want to move, but he can't move at all, his legs are still shaking. Rorschach didn't breathe a sigh of relief until Garp grabbed his collar and jumped down. Hey, as long as he doesn't beat me up as soon as he comes up. The Navy looked at their own Vice Admiral Garp, who caught a man from a distance, and they knew that this was the man who had just attacked them. But when they saw him, the Navy was a little confused. No, why does this guy look like a fugitive? Maybe he's a rag picker. Look, he doesn't even have a piece of intact clothing on him. Also, there's that hair, it's been a few years since I cut it. Rorschach listened to these Marines talking about him. At first, it was fine, but the more they talked, the worse it got. His face turned completely black. Hey, you Marines, can you speak? Are there still people in the Navy who slander people like this? Assholes! Hearing Rorschach scolding them, these Marines immediately shut up. At this time, Garp sat directly in front of Rorschach and asked, Boy, who are you? Why are you here? Rorschach looked Garp up and down and then replied, Vice Admiral Garp, hello. My name is Rorschach, an orphan. That's it. Bogart, who was standing behind Vice Admiral Garp, couldn't stand it anymore and asked directly, Boy, why did you attack our Navy ship? Hearing someone talking, Rorschach pushed aside his long hair and saw the face of the person who asked the question. The man had a sword on his waist, so he should be a swordsman, but his whole face was like a paralyzed face, without any expression. Rorschach recalled and knew the man's name, Bogart, Garp's adjutant. Ahem, sorry, because I usually attack those pirate ships, just now I couldn't see clearly because it was too far away. I thought that after sinking your ship, you would swim to my island, and then I would rob you. Rorschach's voice became weaker and weaker, and finally he simply closed his mouth. There is no way, they have to bow their heads because they are strong. This is a pirate world where the strong are respected. Why rob? Bogart asked. Rorschach spread his hands, I am different from you. You are the Navy, and I am an orphan. I am hungry. As he spoke, a green light flashed in Rorschach's left hand, and suddenly a few senbei appeared in his hand. You can see that there are not many animals on the island, and I ate them all. Sometimes I can only eat senbei. Of course we have to fight for food when there is no food. Besides, senbei is not delicious, you will get tired of it. But Rorschach didn't know that his move shocked everyone present. Everyone on Garp's ship knew how much their admiral liked to eat senbei. Garp stared at Rorschach's left hand, afraid that he had seen it wrong. Chapter 3. Rorschach was talking about everything that had happened recently, but just as he finished speaking, he turned around and saw Garp, who was staring at the senbei in Rorschach's hand with green eyes. Good dong. Rorschach swallowed his saliva and nervously handed the senbei in his hand to Garp. Ka. Vice Admiral Garp, do you want to eat it? Rorschach's hands were shaking a little. He was afraid that he would be beaten, and Garp's eyes looked like he saw meat, which was really scary. How embarrassing! Although Garp said so, his hands moved quickly and grabbed it and stuffed it directly into his mouth. Snap, snap! Garp threw all of them into his mouth, biting the senbei with a crunch. While eating, Garp asked, Where did you get this senbei? Did you make it yourself? I haven't tasted this flavor yet. Rorschach glanced at Garp, thought about it in his mind, and slowly said, I made Vice Admiral Garp's senbei. It just doesn't require any raw materials. Rorschach's left hand flashed with a green light, and the senbei appeared directly out of thin air in Rorschach's hand. All the Marines present widened their eyes, and this time they saw it clearly. It really appeared out of thin air. Devil Fruit ability user. Bogart said very confidently. Rorschach pouted and tilted his head to the other side, not wanting to talk at all. And he was not an ability user. He didn't attack them just now, so the Navy had no reason to catch him. Garp rubbed his hands, and with a smile that he thought was kind, he approached Rorschach. Boy, what ability did you just have? You can actually make senbei. Can you tell me about it? Our Navy is now actively recruiting Navy soldiers. I wonder if you are interested in joining the Navy. And the food in our Navy cafeteria is very delicious. When it comes to food, Rorschach drools unconsciously. He hasn't eaten a normal meal for a long time. But at this moment, a mechanical synthesized voice came from his mind. Congratulations to the host for completing the task. Reward, System Space. The system space can be retracted or expanded according to the host's consciousness. Although the system said so much, in the real world, it was just a matter of a moment. Rorschach came back to his senses and slowly said, "My ability is very strong. I'm not kidding you. Just like the senbei just now, it is one of my abilities. If you want to know." Both the Marines and Garp pricked up their ears to listen, but Rorschach didn't say the second half of the words at all. "Rorschach, what is your ability?" Rorschach pointed to his flat belly. "Do you have any food on your ship?" "I'm a little hungry. I'm so hungry that I don't have the energy to talk. How can I have the energy to talk about abilities?" Bogart glanced at the Marines behind him, and the Marines understood. They sent a 4-man team to run aboard to get food for Rorschach. When the food was placed in front of Rorschach, Rorschach's eyes lit up instantly. "I'm not polite. Even the bones, meat, fried rice, noodles, orange juice, etc., all went into Rorschach's stomach. Hey! I'm so full." Rorschach wiped his mouth with a satisfied look on his face. Garp patted Rorschach on the shoulder and asked, "What is your ability?" "My ability is synthesis. I can synthesize anything, but it can be 2 things, 3 things, or even 10 things." After listening to Rorschach's introduction, Garp scratched his head. "Synthesis, fruit. Why don't I remember this kind of devil fruit?" "Mr. Garp, the sea is vast and magical, so it's not strange to have any ability," Bogart explained. Garp nodded. "How about covering it up?" "Okay, after all, I just ate so much of your food." After speaking, Rorschach stood up and shook his hands in front of them. "Nothing, right? Yet." The next second, Rorschach clenched his right fist, and saw that the flame bracelet on his right wrist suddenly appeared in Rorschach's hand, gradually turning into a knife. "This thing is what I synthesized a year ago. Well, it should be made of a natural devil fruit and a big sword." While introducing, the tiger hunter in Rorschach's hand circled around Rorschach, and the color of the flame plus the weird blue looked particularly beautiful. Looking at the knife in Rorschach's hand, Bogart, as a swordsman, noticed the extraordinariness of the knife at a glance, and this knife was fused with a natural fruit, which was incredible. "Brother Rorschach, I wonder how you synthesized it?" Bogart hossked curiously. Rorschach sighed helplessly. These Navy people talk a lot, but in order to have a full meal in the future, Rorschach still said it. Rorschach's hands gradually emitted a green light in front of everyone. "Yes, that's it. Use both hands to synthesize it. Do you understand?" Bogart nodded, and Suanji pulled Vice Admiral Garp to the side. After walking about 30 meters, Bogart said, "Vice Admiral Garp, we must recruit this Rorschach into the Navy camp." Garp laughed, and his mind couldn't help but think of the scene of making senbei on his palm just now. "Of course, he can make senbei out of thin air, I won't give up." "Vice Admiral Garp, don't you know the value of the knife he just took out?" Although Bogart was very excited, he tried to speak quietly. "What value? Isn't it just a knife synthesized with a devil fruit?" Garp picked his nose and didn't care. Bogart held his forehead helplessly. He had long been accustomed to Vice Admiral Garp's reaction. "As far as I know, only Vegapunk can make a knife eat devil fruit. But it is limited to animal-type devil fruits. The one that Rorschach just took out is a natural-type devil fruit fused into a knife." Instantly, the space was still. Garp slapped his forehead. "Yes. This guy seems to be a treasure." After the two of them finished discussing, Garp came to Rorschach and stretched out his hand directly. "Rorschach, join the Navy." Rorschach was stunned. He didn't expect Garp to invite him so formally, but in order to eat the Navy's food, he must agree. "Okay, after all, I will starve to death if I stay on this island." When Garp saw that Rorschach agreed to him, he couldn't hide the smile on his face. "Okay, Bogart is ready to return. The target is the Navy headquarters." "Yes." Chapter 4. A scene that stunned the Marines was taking place on the Doghead warship. A man in tattered clothes, holding a large piece of meat with bones in his left hand and a drink in his right hand. Sitting on the deck, Garp would occasionally poke Bogart beside him. Ha ha ha, Bogart, look, there are people who can eat more than me. Ha ha ha. Bogart had no expression on his face and just calmly replied a few words, no, Vice Admiral Garp, no one can eat more than you. After dozens of minutes, dozens of large plates and more than 30 cups of wooden barrels of drinks were stacked on the deck, all of which were empty. Rorschach lay down on the ground contentedly, patting his stomach with both hands and showing a satisfied look on his face. Hey! So comfortable! I haven't eaten so well in a long time. Garp sat on the recliner and smacked his lips. How long has it been since you last ate? Fortunately, I always have food on my boat. Rorschach pouted, I haven't eaten something so delicious in a long time. If there's nothing to eat on the island, I go fishing. If I can't catch any fish, I eat senbei. Rorschach then conjured up a senbei from his palm. Garp's eyes sparkled with gold. Garp rubbed his hands and approached Rorschach and said, Brother Rorschach, can you give me a few to try? Sure. Rorschach's hands glowed green in an instant, and countless senbei appeared in Zhang Kai's hands. Gradually, a mountain of senbei was piled up in front of Garp and Rorschach. Garp saw such a large pile of senbei and looked at Rorschach again. His eyes looked at Rorschach as if he was looking at a treasure, which made Rorschach a little creepy. At this time, Bogart came to Rorschach, Brother Rorschach, follow me. Rorschach scratched his head and didn't understand, but he still followed Bogart into the cabin. Following Bogart's footsteps, he came to a room, where a set of clothes was hanging on the hanger in front of him. Brother Rorschach, you can take a shower first, and then change the clothes on the hanger. Then I'll go out first. Rorschach opened his mouth, but didn't say anything in the end. He was not a pretentious person, and then he opened the bathroom door. About 30 minutes later, a man wearing a black shirt with a blue dragon pattern on the cuff of his left arm came out. He was wearing shorts and a pair of slippers on his feet. When he just came out, almost all the Marines looked at him, but no one took action. Even a fool could guess who this person was. Thank you, Brother Bogart, for making me look like a human being now. Bogart opened his mouth but couldn't help asking, isn't this the suit I gave you? Rorschach nodded, that's right, I thought that suit was a bit ugly just now, so I took the initiative to use my ability to change it. Now it looks quite comfortable and good looking. Garp also nodded in agreement, indeed, this guy was sloppy just now, but now he is clean and has black hair, and looks like my grandson. Rorschach's mouth twitched, Old man Garp, I'm not your grandson, don't recognize your grandson randomly. Ha 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 ha, I get it. Rorschach pouted, are you really listening? After that, Rorschach conjured up a bunch of senbei again and put them next to Garp, letting him play by himself. Rorschach walked quickly to Bogart and asked, Brother Bogart, when can we reach the Navy headquarters? It will take about 10 days to sail there. That's how it is on the sea. You'll get used to it. Rorschach looked at Bogart's still expressionless face and forced a smile, okay, thank you for troubling Brother Bogart. At this moment, the familiar voice sounded again. Ding! Congratulations to the host for triggering the random task. Please make a prop that can help the dog-headed warship speed up. Reward, Gravity Glove Synthesis Blueprint. Failed, deprived of tiger hunting. After hearing this, the smile on Rorschach's face disappeared, and his face turned black. This dog system wants to swallow my tiger hunting. If you want it, just say it earlier. But if you think about it carefully, there are indeed some that can make the ship go faster, but there are only 10 days. Mine is faster. While walking silently and thinking, Rorschach walked into the cabin unknowingly. When he came out again, Rorschach actually dragged out a package. For a moment, all the Marines on the deck and Old Man Garp had several question marks on their heads. It was Garp who asked first, Hey, Rorschach, what are those packages on your back? Are you going to leave? Not going to the Navy with me. Rorschach glanced and found that Garp's hands were clenched into fists. Suddenly, Rorschach's mind popped up with this sentence, could it be that Old Man Garp wants to beat me? Don't talk nonsense, I finally found it in the cabin. As Rorschach said this, he dumped all the rags he had just looted on the deck. Most of them were rags, including deformed iron pots, wine bottles, wooden boards, and even Rorschach found some hard metal. If Rorschach guessed correctly, it should be the famous sea stone in the pirate world. Katsu Katsu. Katsu Katsu. Rorschach frowned slightly, Hey, Old Man Garp, the sound of you eating senbei should be quieter, it makes me unable to concentrate. Rorschach was holding a 1-meter-long wooden stick and a torn piece of clothing at this time. A green light flashed in his hand and gradually wrapped the two items and merged with each other. After a few seconds, the green light disappeared, and the two things in Rorschach's hand became one. Damn, what is that? Rorschach threw it aside. Bogart nodded. It turns out that two pieces of junk can be turned into a new item. Vice Admiral Garp also saw the scene just now, and then he stopped eating senbei, and even got off the recliner and sat on the deck, just quietly watching Rorschach's continuous synthesis. I don't know how long it took, maybe an hour, or maybe 2 hours, and suddenly a shout startled everyone present. The bubbles on Mr. Garp's nose were also awakened by the shout. At this time, Rorschach was holding something similar to a fan in his hand, one in each hand, but this thing was almost half the height of Zhang Qi. Vice Admiral Garp woke up in a daze, and when he saw what Rorschach was holding, he asked in confusion, "Rorschach boy, are you hot? There are actually two big fans in your hands." For a moment, everyone looked at Rorschach. "Go away, this is not a fan. This is a thruster." Bogart looked up and down at the thing in Rorschach's hand. "What thruster? What is it for?" Rorschach smiled mysteriously, "As long as I install these things on both sides of the warship, the speed of the warship will be increased. As for how fast, I don't know. As for why Rorschach knows so much, of course it is the system in his brain that said it." When Rorschach finished these two things, the voice of the system sounded. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the task and obtaining the reward of Gravity Glove Synthesis Blueprint. Chapter 5. Bogart took the two things from Rorschach's hand, and then easily installed them on both sides of the warship according to Rorschach's request. The moment they were installed, the two thrusters seemed to have energy, and they started automatically without wind, and the entire warship was also moving quickly. For a moment, almost all the Marines, including Garp, looked at the two thrusters in surprise. Rorschach couldn't help but nod with satisfaction. He himself was not sure that the things he made casually could have such an effect. So it has to be said that his hands are really magical. Just when Rorschach was secretly sighing, he suddenly felt like he was hit hard on the back, and the whole person was hit on the deck with a dull sound. Bang! Rorschach shook his dizzy head and turned his head to look. Garp's hand was frozen in the air at this time. It must be him who did it. Rorschach's face immediately turned black. Damn, I worked hard to make something that is good for everyone. Garp, you dog day, actually attacked me. Of course, Rorschach didn't dare to say this. Old Garp, do you have any problem with me? You actually attacked me. Even the Marines on the ship looked at Rorschach, which made Garp very embarrassed. Ha 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 ha, I'm really sorry. I was so happy just now that I couldn't help but pat Lo Kid, but I didn't expect that I couldn't control my strength. Garp scratched his head and explained, but this loud laughter really made it hard to believe that Garp was really apologizing. The Marines on the ship also laughed. Oh, Vice Admiral Garp is always like this. Yes, Rorschach, don't take it too seriously, Vice Admiral Garp has no ill intentions, just forgive him. Listening to many Marines pleading for Garp, and Garp being a stubborn guy, Rorschach also forgave Garp. Okay, I understand. Time flies, and soon 2 days have passed. At this time, Garp's dog-headed warship was less than 50 meters away from the port of the Navy headquarters. Rorschach's thing called a propeller is really amazing. It originally took more than 10 days to reach the Navy headquarters, but it arrived in 2 days. This is amazing. Bogart said this was amazing. He thought it was amazing to arrive within 10 days, but he never expected it. Ha ha ha. This time I really picked up a treasure. Wait and see if that guy Zhang Guo dares to say anything about me. We also have geniuses in the East China Sea. At this moment, Garp was full of passion and amazing. But Rorschach was far away from him. He was scared by that palm. Soon the warship docked, and Rorschach followed Garp and slowly got off the ship. As soon as Garp got off the ship, officers and soldiers around him greeted Garp one after another, and Garp responded one by one. Bogart, you should go and do your thing. I'm going to take this kid to find Sengoku. Got it, Vice Admiral Garp. After saying hello, Garp took Rorschach into the Marine headquarters. Rorschach was shocked by what he saw when he first entered the Marine headquarters. This was something he had never seen in the past year since he lived on the deserted island. In the training ground, countless Marines were fighting. Only those who had truly seen it could understand the scene. Okay, Luo kid, I'll take you to Sengoku first, and then I'll let you see it after we're done. Garp grabbed Rorschach's collar and pulled him forward a little. Garp knew that Rorschach was standing there motionless, and was obviously shocked. Oh, got it. Following Garp all the way, the soldiers passing by looked at Rorschach curiously behind Garp, but each of them greeted Garp before leaving. However, from a distance, Rorschach seemed to see a person from a pirate he had seen in his previous life. Vice Admiral Garp, why are you back so early? Aren't you going back to the East China Sea? Rorschach looked up and saw that this person was about the same height as Rorschach, with black hair that was set off by the sunlight and a navy coat on the outside. There was a spider tattooed on his thigh, which made him look very charming, and a knife on his waist. I guess that was the famous sword Kinpara. Ha 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 ha, I wanted to go back to Windmill Village, but I met this kid on the way, so I came back first. Garp gave up half of his body, grabbed Rorschach's arm and pulled Rorschach in front of him. That's the kid. It's impossible not to be nervous when Garp suddenly caught him in front of Jun, but Rorschach didn't recognize anyone. Zhang Kai's flaming bracelet on his wrist instantly turned into a tiger hunter. The moment he grabbed the hilt of the knife, Rorschach raised the knife and slashed at Garp. But in the moment he chopped Garp, a knife was placed in front of Garp. This person was Jun. Hey! Little handsome man, why do you want to chop Vice Admiral Garp? This is very rude. Rorschach glared at Jun in front of him and said unwillingly, beautiful lady, get out of the way quickly. This old man Garp always grabs my collar. I am a person who wants to save face. I will not let him control me. Unless he promises not to grab my collar again in the future, I will not give up, you old man. Jun rolled his eyes at Garp behind him. It turned out that this old man was always like this, which made the handsome boy in front of him like this. Then it makes sense. He is a big guy after all. Is it really okay for you to grab him like a small animal? Garp listened to Rorschach's words and realized that he was used to grabbing the collar, which caused him to almost be chopped. Ha ha ha, I'm so sorry, Rorschach, I won't do it again next time. After hearing Garp's apology, Rorschach stopped, and Tiger Hunter instantly turned into a ball of fire and returned to Rorschach's wrist to act as a decoration. This scene happened to be seen clearly by Ji Yuan. Little handsome boy, what's wrong with your knife? And that knife feels like a famous knife. As soon as Zhang Qi opened his mouth, Garp whispered, Ji Yuan's knife is a knife that has been fused with the natural devil fruit. Don't tell anyone about this. Now I'm going to bring this treasure Rorschach to Zhangguo to see. After saying that, Garp grabbed Rorschach and left. Before leaving, Rorschach did not forget to turn around and say goodbye, beautiful lady, see you later. After saying goodbye, Rorschach reluctantly withdrew his gaze. After the two left, Ji Yuan stood there and murmured, what did Mr. Garp say just now? A knife that combines the natural devil fruit. Is there really such a knife? I'm afraid Vegapunk can't do it now. But he is such a handsome and interesting little brother. See you next time. Ji Yuan showed a charming smile at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 6. Rorschach followed Garp all the way to Sengoku's office, but the next second, there was a bang and the originally closed door was kicked open by Garp. Sengoku in the room was frightened and then an angry curse sounded, damn Garp, you kicked the door again. Rorschach touched the door with some sympathy, but the quality of the door was guaranteed. Garp kicked it so hard that it didn't break. Little did he know that this door had been replaced so many times. Ha 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 ha, Sengoku, don't be so angry. Today I brought you a treasure. Sengoku glanced at Garp in confusion when he heard the word treasure, but found nothing. No, didn't you go back to the East China Sea on vacation? Why are you back so soon? You know, Garp likes to take vacations very much, and he just said treasure. According to Sengoku's understanding, it could also be senbei or something. Since Rorschach was standing behind Garp, Sengoku didn't see Rorschach. Luo kid, it's time for you to come out, right? Zhangguo immediately gave up his seat and sat on a chair beside him. Ha 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 ha, this is the boy I met when I returned to the East China Sea this time. He will definitely surprise you. Zhangguo looked at Rorschach in front of him. At first glance, there was only one word to describe him, that is, handsome. He wore a black shirt on his upper body, the blue dragon pattern on his shoulder was vivid, and he wore shorts on his lower body. He looked very handsome and had a good temperament. What's your name? My name is Rorschach. Zhang Guo nodded and then looked at Garp's position and asked, Garp, can you introduce me? Garp was stunned. Zhang Guo actually asked him to introduce himself. He didn't remember much now, so he could only tell Zhang Guo what he knew. Rorschach should be a devil fruit ability user. I remember that he can make rice crackers out of thin air. At this point, Garp looked at Rorschach standing aside with eager eyes. Garp hadn't eaten it for a long time. Rorschach was helpless, and his hands immediately glowed green. The scene that followed shocked Zhang Guo. Countless senbei flew out of Rorschach's hands and landed on Zhang Guo's desk, and a small pile of senbei appeared in front of Zhang Guo. Zhang Guo looked at the steaming senbei on the desk, and now he somewhat agreed with what Garp had just said. Ha ha ha, great! Garp reached out and grabbed the senbei, ignoring Zhang Guo completely. Rorschach, who had just synthesized the senbei, suddenly felt a passionate gaze looking at him after his hands returned to normal. Rorschach looked up and saw Zhang Guo staring at him with a fiery look. Rorschach shrank his head at that look. Perhaps noticing his own loss of composure, Zhang Guo quickly returned to normal. Rorschach, right? Crack. Yes, Martial Sengoku. Crack. Excuse me, what kind of fruit ability are you? Crack. The sound of Garp chewing senbei continued, and Garp was about to explode at any time. Garp. Asshole Garp, if you want to eat, go out and eat, don't disturb me and Rorschach talking. Sengoku yelled. Ha ha ha, got it, got it. After yelling at Garp, Sengoku turned around and restored his amiable expression. Ahem, Martial Sengoku, my fruit ability is synthesis fruit, there is nothing I can't synthesize. After Rorschach finished speaking, Garp interrupted and said, that's right, I saw with my own eyes that he had a natural big knife. This is also the only thing Garp can remember besides senbei. Rorschach, what does the natural sword that Garp just mentioned mean? This should be what old man Garp is talking about. Rorschach just finished speaking, and the flame bracelet on his wrist suddenly exploded in the next second, and the surging flames directly turned into a knife that Rorschach held in his hand. Zhang Guo was stunned for a moment, and didn't know what to say for a while, but after the shock, Zhang Guo reacted, stood up immediately, and came to Rorschach. Oh my god, this knife is made of the flame just now. Zhang Guo's tone was inevitably amazed and happy, and he now completely believed what Rorschach said. Rorschach nodded, yes, but it's not the natural devil fruit that was fused with this sword. Yes. I used ordinary flames to fuse it, yes, that's right. If Rorschach said that he used the flame fruit, he would be in trouble. You know, there is still a year before Luffy goes to sea, and the flame fruit has been eaten by Ace. How can he have it? And this is a system reward. After Rorschach said this, the office fell into silence, and even Garp's words the senbei is no longer fragrant. At this time, only the heavy breathing of Zhang Guo could be heard in the office. Rorschach, is this effect of yours permanent? Yeah, that's right. Rorschach changed the knife back to the shape of a bracelet and returned it to his wrist. At this time, Garp bit the senbei and patted Rorschach's shoulder vigorously, laughing, ha 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 ha, good boy, I really picked up a treasure. I said Zhang Guo, you saw the person too, but I just came back, and I still have to take him to rest, and he said he wants to join the navy, you have to arrange these things. Yes, yes, if we stay in this way, Rorschach can have one room each, right? No problem. Garp agreed immediately. After Garp and the others left Zhang Guo's office, Zhang Guo sat alone in the office chair, and suddenly seemed to think of something. It seems that this period of Zifa training camp has just started, and Luo Kid has to be stuffed in. He did it right away. Garp picked up the Den Mushi on the table and dialed it. At the same time, Zifa was walking around in the training ground, and suddenly the Den Mushi in his arms rang. Zenagaku? What's up? Zenagaku, Garp brought back a guy with an interesting fruit ability. I plan to let him go to your training camp and report tomorrow. Zenagaku couldn't help but wonder, even you think the fruit ability is interesting, I want to see, okay, let him report tomorrow. Let me make it clear first, if it doesn't work, and I train him to be useless, you won't. But before Zifa finished speaking, he was interrupted by Zhang Guo, if you dare to train him to be useless, then you can wait to be beaten. After that, Zhang Guo hung up the phone directly. On the other side, Zifa's forehead was bulging with veins. It was the first time he saw Zhang Guo caring so much about a kid, and he didn't allow him to train him to be useless. Tomorrow he would see what devil fruit ability this kid has. If it doesn't work, then he can only get out. Chapter 7. On the other side, Garp took Rorschach all the way to the Navy dormitory. This is the accommodation area for naval cadets. Usually, 2 people share a room, but since I brought you back, naturally, you have a room for 1 person. By the way, I will take you to the Zifa training class tomorrow. Zhang Guo just told me. At first, Rorschach was still very happy, but the moment he heard about the Zifa training camp, Rorschach's smile gradually stiffened. After all, Rorschach had seen the Zifa training camp in his previous life. The training there was not terrible. If he fell behind, he would probably be shot by Zifa with a machine gun. Thinking of this, Rorschach waved his hands repeatedly. No, 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 I still won't waste the Navy's resources. I'll just be a soldier in logistics. Rorschach was about to run, but was suddenly pulled up by Garp. I will come tomorrow, don't think about running away. The current 3 admirals were all trained by Garp. This is fine. Rorschach agreed helplessly. Hearing Rorschach's agreement, Garp turned around and left without hesitation. Garp also slammed the door of the room shut. Hey, what should we do? But according to the time calculation, this period should be Zifa's last period. That Smoker and Tina seem to be here. At the same time, Garp walked out of the naval cadet dormitory and ran into a middle-aged man with purple hair. This person was Zifa. Hey? Zifa. Garp. The two looked at each other, and then Zifa asked, did you bring him back to my training camp tomorrow? Yes, I met him. This guy is a rare talent. When talking about Rorschach, Garp felt a strong sense of pride. Rorschach was met by him. If someone mentioned his grandson, Garp would not be so happy, right? The two just chatted for a while and went to do other things. Rorschach, who stayed in the dormitory, took out the reward he had just received, gravity glove drawing. In an instant, a tiny light appeared in Rorschach's hand, and after the light dispersed, it turned into a piece of paper made of parchment. The paper also told Rorschach what materials he needed, but the first material made Rorschach frown. The first one was Akainu's gloves. The second one was sea stone. The third one was earth. That's right, it was such a simple material. This is not a lie, is it? Especially the first one, Akainu's gloves, how can I do this? Rorschach scratched his hair irritably, and his hair was directly scratched into a mess. Forget it, don't think about it. If I can't find a way, I'll let old man Garp fight with Akainu and take his gloves away. Rorschach, who figured everything out, was in a particularly good mood. The next day, Rorschach's door was kicked open by a strong force. Rorschach also sat up suddenly because of the loud noise, and looked at the scene in shock. I saw old man Garp standing in front of me. Boy, let's go. I'll take you to Zephyr's place to play. After saying that, he was about to reach out to grab Rorschach. Rorschach dodged Garp's big hand by turning sideways, and then put on his clothes and stood in front of Garp. Let's go, old man Garp. Rorschach said lightly. After seeing Rorschach dressed neatly, Garp didn't say anything and walked out with Rorschach. The two were walking on the way to the training ground. At this time, Rorschach suddenly asked, Old man Garp. Ah! Who is better at fighting, you or General Sakaski? Rorschach asked curiously. Garp turned his head and looked at Rorschach. Why do you suddenly ask this question? But Sakaski is no match for me now. I can knock him to the ground. Garp said proudly. Rorschach's eyes lit up instantly. Grandpa Garp, can you do me a favor? As long as you can do me this favor, I will give you enough senbei in the future. Rorschach said proudly, patting his chest. The two of them also stopped at this time and looked at each other face to face. No problem, just tell me, I will do you this favor. Can you help me get the gloves from General Sakaski? Rorschach just finished saying this, and it seemed that the air was quiet. Garp suspected that he had heard it wrong, and asked again, what did you say? Can you help me get the gloves from General Sakaski? I really need it. This time Garp really heard it clearly, and he really wanted him to fight with Sakaski. Do you have any new inventions? Are you going to synthesize something? Garp's eyes flashed. This time Garp is a little smarter. Rorschach didn't hide it and admitted it directly. Yes, there is an item related to the fist. This item is suitable for you, old man Garp, and. Before he finished speaking, Garp patted his chest and agreed, don't worry, I will definitely knock Sakaski down and grab the gloves. Rorschach had a bad feeling when he heard Garp's eager tone. Is it? Old man Garp has been holding a grudge against Sakaski for a long time? This guy won't give me up, right? Although Rorschach has a lot of thoughts now, he doesn't have time to think about it now, because he has entered the training ground. As soon as he entered the training ground, Rorschach saw a group of Marines running around the training ground, especially Smoker and Tina at the front. When Garp and Rorschach came to Zifa took out the whistle hanging around his neck and blew it directly. At the same time, the students who were just running in circles returned to Zephyr one by one and lined up in front of him. The students looked at the handsome Rorschach curiously, wondering who he was. Zeph, I have something important to do for this kid, so I'll leave this kid to you first. After saying that, Garp performed the moon step and ran towards Sakaski's office. Everyone looked at each other. After Garp left, Zephyr looked at Rorschach curiously, and then said, introduce yourself. Rorschach nodded. Hello everyone, my name is Rorschach, from the East China Sea, I'm good at swordsmanship, that's all. Zeph glanced at Rorschach and said faintly, what about the fruit ability? At this point, all the students below looked at Rorschach. Rorschach sighed helplessly and said, I am a user of the synthesis fruit ability. When Rorschach finished speaking, a student asked, what does it look like? Can you show it to me? This, okay. As he spoke, Rorschach walked to Zifa's side with a green light in his hand. He held down a machine gun with one hand and a rocket launcher with the other. Instantly, the two guns emitted a green light, and the two lights merged. When everyone looked again, Rorschach already had a brand new gun in his hand. The firing port of this gun became the same size as a plate, and the gun body was still the same as before. Everyone was amazed when they saw this scene. At this time, Zifa, who had been silent, asked, what is the use of this gun? How about you try it, instructor? Rorschach handed it over with both hands. Zifa took it. As soon as Zifa took it, some students wanted to run away reflexively, but they still didn't dare to move. They also knew that Zifa would not shoot them at this close distance. Zifa looked at the gun in his hand, then raised the muzzle and shot at the open space. Instantly, dozens of bullets were fired from the muzzle as big as a plate, but these bullets exploded instantly when they touched the road, just like a cannonball. The students who saw this scene were stunned, especially Zifa. He used machine guns to motivate these students before, but now he dared not use this new weapon to hit the students, he was afraid of killing them directly. That low. Zifa was about to speak when a loud noise came from a distance, and thick black smoke was also coming out. Zifa looked over and saw that it should be an office building, and something must have happened. Then Zifa said, you train alone, I'll go and see. Chapter 8. As Zifa ran towards the place where the loud noise came from with moon steps, all the naval cadets became excited. Especially Smoker and Tina, the two troublemakers, could not hold back. I want to go and take a look. Smoker is right, this is the headquarters of the Navy, who dares to fight here? All the cadets rushed towards the loud noise. Rorschach was also curious and followed Smoker and the others. A few minutes later, the whole place was surrounded by the Navy, so densely packed that Rorschach and the others could only stand in a small area. Did you see that? Those two fighting were Vice Admiral Garp and Admiral Akainu. Really? No wonder I just felt the heat coming. Vice Admiral Garp is even more powerful than Vice Admiral Akainu, and he was able to beat him like this. The Navy around Rorschach were talking about it. Rorschach seemed to feel something was wrong as he listened. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. He seemed to have instigated Old Man Garp to fight with Sakaski and snatch his gloves. It's over, if Akainu knows about this, I don't know if I can keep my body intact. Rorschach thought to himself. While Rorschach was thinking about it, a group of Navy generals, including Sengoku, Kizaru, Crane, and Ji-Yuan, almost all the generals in the headquarters, came over. As soon as Sengoku arrived, he saw Garp and Sakaski in a mess. And Garp's eyes were fixed on Akainu's hand, and he was wearing his gloves. Sengoku glanced at Garp and found that Garp was still staring at Akainu with his eyes shining. He was immediately furious and roared, Garp, what are you two doing? The navy is in turmoil, do you still want to do it? Ah! Listening to Sengoku's scolding, Garp picked his nose boredly and said, although I had a fight with Sakazuki, there was a reason. What reason? Sengoku knew that if no one told Garp, Garp would never do such a thing, not to mention that this time it was a fight with Akainu. Rorschach, who was far away in the navy crowd, felt a sudden shock in his heart, and his heart beat instantly. He was extremely nervous, and even Rorschach was praying that Garp would not talk nonsense. But there is a saying that goes, the more you fear something, the more it will come. Garp said slowly, it's Rorschach. He said he wants Sakazuki's gloves to make a good thing. Then I will come to fight Sakazuki. Rorschach in the crowd knelt down on the ground when he heard Garp's words, as if he had lost his goal in life. It was still Ji Yuan who was quick-witted and grabbed Rorschach in front of Garp. As soon as Rorschach landed, he felt a heat wave coming towards him. Rorschach looked up and saw Sakazuki's dog face staring at him, as if he was going to melt him in the next second. Rorschach was frightened by this look and took out the tiger hunt directly. The bracelet turned into a knife, and this scene made some Marines feel very novel. Sakazuki, you should be honest too, don't scare Rorschach. Let's listen to what Rorschach says first, and then make a decision. Zhang Guo said kindly. All the generals were puzzled for a while, only Ji Yuan and Garp had no change in expression, as if they had known it for a long time. Hey, this. I just thought of a new thing, but this thing must be Admiral Akainu's gloves. But I can't just ask for it directly as a soldier, right? So I asked Vice Admiral Garp to ask for it for me, and then they fought like this. Rorschach was also helpless about this matter, he was afraid that he would be plotted against by Akainu later. Ha 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 ha, in fact, I have wanted to fight with Sakazuki for a long time, and now I finally found the opportunity. Garp's heroic voice sounded. This statement really made people speechless. Then what are you going to make this time, Rorschach? Rorschach stroked his chin and shook his head, I don't know this time, I have to make it after it's done. Rorschach said this to protect himself. Maybe there might be pirates among so many navy. If he was assassinated, then his journey through time would be in vain. Zhang Guo nodded thoughtfully, and then nodded to Zifa and others. The group walked towards Zhang Guo's office, and Rorschach was also carried up by Vice Admiral Garp. Soon all the generals who were present returned to Zhang Guo's office. Okay, Rorschach, you can talk now. Rorschach nodded, and then slowly said, it's a gravity glove. I don't know the specific function, I have to do it well. After that, Rorschach sat on the ground next to Vice Admiral Garp. Sakazuki, put your glove, stake it out first, let's see what Rorschach can make. Zhang Guo ordered. Sakazuki glared at Rorschach, then reluctantly took off his gloves and handed them to Zhang Guo. After handing the gloves to Rorschach, Zhang Guo continued, okay, Rorschach, see what you can make. Rorschach took the gloves and shook his head, there's no way, because we still need sea stone and soil. It's okay, Ji Yuan will leave it to you. Ji Yuan, who was standing at the door, nodded and walked out of the office. When he came back again, he had a piece of sea stone in his hand and enough lois to wrap in newspaper. Ji Yuan put the two things in front of Rorschach. Trouble. Looking at the three things on the ground, Rorschach took a deep breath, his hands emitting a dazzling green light, and then he picked up Akainu's gloves, lois, and sea stone one by one. After the three things touched Rorschach's hands, they disappeared instantly, and when they reappeared, they had turned into a pair of black gloves with a dragon pattern printed on them. Garp curled his lips, isn't this just an ordinary pair of boxing gloves? Let me try it. While saying this, Garp quickly put the gloves in Rorschach's hands on his own hands. How does it feel? Zhang Guo was a little expectant, after all, Rorschach could integrate flames into the sword. No feeling. While saying this, Garp lightly punched the air in front of Sengoku. But after this punch, Sengoku was pinned to the wall, and his expression was ferocious. But after all, it was just a light punch, and he broke free in no time. The navy commanders who saw this scene stared with incredible eyes. Especially when they looked at Rorschach's expression, there was no longer the ferocious look just now, and the expression was as friendly as it could be. Akainu, who was glaring at Rorschach just now, also softened a little, but was still so serious. Chapter 9. At this moment, the wall of Sengoku has cracked, and the degree of damage is comparable to the gravity fruit. For a moment, everyone stared at the gloves in Garp's hand with fiery eyes, especially Sengoku, who has personally experienced the power of the gloves and definitely has the highest say. Now he can't wait to pull the gloves from Garp's hand. Ha 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 ha, the power is so great, this is really a good thing. Garp was very happy. He didn't have much hope at first, but he actually hit Sengoku into the wall. Even Rorschach was a little surprised. He didn't expect that the gravity gloves actually had the ability of the gravity fruit. This was incredible. Garp pushed Rorschach, who was still in a daze, and laughed, "Smelly boy, what's the matter with this glove? Explain it." "That's right, as the inventor of the gloves, you must explain why it is so powerful." All the Navy asked Rorschach to explain, and even Akainu and the others looked at Rorschach eagerly. Rorschach swallowed his saliva involuntarily and said slowly, "The gravity gloves are linked to the strength of the wearer. If the wearer uses boxing, the power will be higher, just like Mr. Garp, he uses fists, so this pair of gloves fits him very well and is more powerful. On the contrary, if Sister Ji-Yuan wears the gloves, the power will be smaller because she uses a sword." At this point, Rorschach looked at Zhang Guo who had just been beaten into the wall and said word by word, "Of course, although I can make this thing, it seems that it cannot be mass-produced." As soon as this was said, Zhang Guo immediately asked, "Why is little Rorschach doing this?" All the generals present looked at Rorschach at once. There were also some who fought with fists among them, and of course they still wanted this kind of weapon, especially since Mr. Garp had just beaten Zhang Guo into the wall, which was also the reason why they were excited. Rorschach quietly shrank behind Garp and whispered, "Of course, this is because this thing needs Admiral Sakaski's gloves." Just now, Mr. Garp and Admiral Sakaski fought because of the two gloves. At this point, the nervous Sengoku and the Navy all laughed. Of course, only Sengoku dared to laugh here. If others laughed, the magma might fall on their heads. "Little Rorschach, you don't have to worry about this. I have as many gloves as Sakaski wants. If they are not enough, I will ask Sakaski to buy more." Sakaski also nodded and said, "Yes, I still have a lot of gloves. After all, it is to improve the combat power of the Navy." Although Marshal Sengoku and Admiral Sakaski said very well, but I can only make one set a week. Rorschach continued before they asked questions, "This material not only requires Admiral Sakaski's gloves, but the only necessary condition is that Admiral Sakaski must wear them for 5 days. And it can't be damaged, and it can't be burned." Rorschach shrank back to the chair behind Garp and sat down. After listening to Rorschach's words, Zhang Guo stroked his chin as if thinking about something, then raised his head and said, "Then from today on, Sakaski, you will always wear the gloves. As long as you wear them for 5 days, ask Xia Rorschach to make gravity gloves. This is a good thing to promote the combat effectiveness of the Navy, you can't refuse." Sakaski opened his mouth, but finally nodded in agreement. However, Rorschach still felt a little sorry when he saw Zhang Guo's expression, probably because it could not be mass-produced. "Ha ha ha ha, since we have already discussed it, I will take this kid away first." Garp grabbed Rorschach and was about to go outside, but a figure blocked Garp's steps. This person was Sakaski. Some students were sitting on the ground, and some were smoking cigars, looking very comfortable. Seeing this scene, Zifa's veins popped up instantly, "You bastards, didn't I let you train on your own?" Facing Zifa's anger, even Smoker, who was called a thorn, did not dare to act rashly. In an instant, dozens of students quickly lined up in several rows, waiting for Zifa's orders, and their faces were very nervous. Even Rorschach heard their whispers after joining the ranks. If Smoker hadn't said that we could move freely, how could we be scolded by teacher Zifa? That's right. All these whispers were heard by Smoker, and his face must have turned pale now. "Humph, I'm just going to the office of Zhang Guo today, and you guys just know how to be lazy. It seems that you don't understand the horror of me, Zifa, if you don't train you." Zafar walked back and forth with his hands behind his back, which scared these students. "Okay, then run around the playground 30. No, run 50 laps. You can't eat if you don't finish. Hurry up!" Zafar roared. This is enough to show that he is really angry today. After all, Zifa has really been to the sea, understands the cruelty of the sea, and knows that only by becoming stronger can you survive. Without strength, you will only be killed by pirates. After Zifa issued the order, the Navy ran away one by one, including Rorschach. At the same time, after Zifa issued the task, a voice sounded in Rorschach's mind. Ding! Congratulations on triggering the random task and completing the task of 50 laps. Task Reward Elemental Weapon Method. At the same time, a picture appeared in Rorschach's mind. In the picture, a person took a ball of ice and injected it into the weapon, and then the weapon burst into a dazzling light, and then the weapon was like Rorschach's tiger hunting, tightly wrapped around the arm. Seeing this reward, Luoxia couldn't help but raise his lips slightly. If he mastered this trick, it would be so easy to make money. At the same time, another voice from the system followed closely. Failure Penalty, Host Bald. Chapter 10. This system wants me to become stronger, Rorschach said secretly. But before he had time to think, Zifa shouted, Stinky boy, why don't you hurry up and run? Are you waiting to be shot by my machine gun? Before he finished speaking, the unique bang-bang sound of the machine gun exploded in everyone's ears. Everyone stopped running because of the hurry, and Rorschach was the same. It is hard to imagine that Zifa, who is called the general who does not kill by the outside world, is like this when training students. Perhaps it is because he knows how cruel this world is that he is like this. A full circle of the training ground is about 500 meters and Rorschach and his team have to run 50 laps, which is 25,000 meters, which is about 25 kilometers. Rorschach's scalp tingled when he thought of this. There were 40 or 50 students running around the training ground. Smogatina was running in the first and second positions, and Rorschach was in the fifth position at the moment. As for why Rorschach ran so far ahead, you may know it if you use your brain. After all, Rorschach has survived on a deserted island for a year. He must be much better than these students who have never been out to sea, and Rorschach has killed pirates. Hurry up! Hurry up! Didn't you guys rest very comfortably just now? Why can't you do it now? If you don't hurry up, my machine gun has no eyes. Under Zifa's verbal intimidation and firepower, some people were almost unable to hold on, but they were gritting their teeth and persisting. They didn't want to be killed. Ah! The Navy is really strict. Rorschach sighed silently. Soon 3 hours passed quietly, and the students in the first echelon had already run about 30 laps. Some students couldn't hold on and fainted. Of course, these students had been carried to a cool place by Zifa's assistants. After all, Zifa still knows his limits. He is known as the non-killing admiral. If he can treat pirates without killing them, then he will naturally be very gentle to his students. At this moment, Zifa is holding a can of sherry and sitting comfortably on a recliner. Smoker, Tina, and Rorschach, these three little guys have good endurance. I wonder if they can hold on to the end. Zafar murmured in his seat, and Zifa admired Rorschach more and more. Smoker and the other two who were running in circles glared at Zifa angrily, especially Smoker who secretly snorted, Bah, this purple-haired old turtle, dare to lie down like this. After I finish running, I will drink too. Tina wants to smoke, there are still more than 10 laps, Tina must cheer up. Rorschach followed the two silently, keeping silent. It was not that he didn't want to talk, but he was almost unable to speak. Now Rorschach's throat seemed to be smoking, and the sweat of the three of them almost soaked their clothes. But fortunately, the clothes they wore were all dark outerwear, and even if they were transparent, you couldn't see anything. As time passed, Rorschach gradually fell behind. At this moment, Smoker and Tina had already covered Rorschach for a circle. Rorschach's eyes were dim and his body was swaying as if he could faint at any time. But Rorschach must have a goal in mind, the key is, he doesn't want to be bald. When there was only 1 lap left, all the students and Zifa stood up and shouted, Smelly boy, hold on for 1 more lap. Come on! Rorschach! Good job Rorschach! And Smoker and Tina were 1 lap ahead of Rorschach. They had already completed the laps and were carried to the shade by other students to rest. Hey, purple-haired turtle! Why set so many laps, damn it! Rorschach's voice came out of his mouth like a mosquito, and others couldn't hear it. A few minutes later, Rorschach's shaky body hit the finish line directly, and he fainted completely. At the same time, Rorschach also completed the task of 50 laps. Hurry, hurry up and send Rorschach to the infirmary. In a few minutes, Rorschach was carried to the infirmary by Zifa. The doctor in the infirmary saw Zifa carrying a boy in and knew what was going on at a glance. Quick, put him on the bed first. After checking Rorschach, the doctor secretly breathed a sigh of relief and said, Instructor Zifa, you can't train like this. This Marine is just overtired and fainted. I'll give him an 4 and he'll be fine. There have been people who were carried to the infirmary before, but none as serious as Rorschach. Some people woke up halfway before, but this time Rorschach showed no signs of waking up for such a long time. No wonder the doctor blamed Zifa. Although they blamed Zifa, it was a law, but it was also for the good of these students, so Zifa had no reason to get angry. Okay, I won't do it again in the future, doctor, please rest assured. By the way, when will Rorschach wake up? Zifa asked. The doctor waved his hand. Maybe half a day later. This little guy is too tired, Instructor Zifa, let him have a good rest. Okay, then I'll leave first and come back in the afternoon. Zifa stood up with a gentle smile on his face, turned around and walked out of the infirmary. Half a day later. Smoker and Tina found Rorschach's ward with a fruit basket. As soon as the door opened, Rorschach, who was originally lying on the bed, sat up and looked around blankly. When Rorschach noticed Smoker and the other two, he asked inexplicably, "Where is this place?" "Tina, let me tell you, this is a hospital. You fainted after running 50 laps as assigned by Zifa. You scared Tina." "Yes, Rorschach, you have really good endurance," Smoker praised. "Smoker, Tina, you two are better than me. Am I embarrassed?" Rorschach scratched his head and seemed a little embarrassed. He fainted in front of so many people. As an earthling, he was really embarrassed. Tina doesn't feel embarrassed. "Rorschach, if you knew, the task assigned by Zifa was 50 laps. You were the only one who completed it besides the two of us." The two chatted with Rorschach and Smoker, and Tina also found a chair and sat down. As soon as he sat down, Smoker said unhappily, "That purple-haired old turtle is really cruel. He actually made me run so many laps at a time. Wait until I am stronger than him." "What will happen when you are stronger than me?" Suddenly, a cold voice exploded in Smoker's ears, and Smoker turned into a ball of smoke and ran behind Rorschach. At this time, the cold sweat on his body had not yet faded. Chapter 11. Old Teacher Zifa. Smoker was shocked. He didn't expect Zifa to come to him quietly. Tina beside him was also startled, but fortunately she didn't say anything. "Humph, brat." Zeph found a place and sat down directly. "How is it? Luo boy, how is your health?" "Fortunately, the doctor said that it was just over fatigue, just take a rest." "Well, that's good." Zeph nodded. "But why did you two guys come back to see Luo boy?" "Old man, we ran 50 laps together, come to see if it's not enough," Smoker said with his neck stiff. Just then, a mechanical sound came from Rorschach's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the random task. Reward has been issued. In an instant, Rorschach felt a warm feeling coming from his hands, which was very comfortable, but only for a moment. At the same time, Rorschach also had memories of the method of element synthesis in his mind. At this time, Zifa patted Rorschach, and seeing that Rorschach had come back to his senses, Zifa asked, "What's wrong? Why did you look so dazed just now?" "No. I just thought of some new uses for the devil fruit, just like a flash of inspiration for the alarm clock." Rorschach can only say that his ability is the devil fruit ability. "Oh? What ability?" "Yes, Tina wants to know too." Smoker didn't say anything, but the expectation in his eyes was no less than the two. Tina and Smoker have been curious about Rorschach for a long time, and today they saw Rorschach being brought into the office by Marshal Zhangguo and others. "Well, since you want to see it, then okay." Facing the curious eyes of the three people, Rorschach was a little reluctant to refuse. Then Rorschach looked at Smoker. Smoker, you are a natural ability user, right?" "Yes, I am a natural smoke fruit ability user." "Why are you asking this?" Rorschach nodded and then stretched out his hand to Smoker, "Give me a cloud of smoke." At the same time, Rorschach's palm also emitted a faint green light. Smoker didn't waste any words, and took off his brown gloves directly. A cloud of white smoke gathered on his palm, and then handed it to Rorschach. The smoke fell on Rorschach's palm, and did not dissipate directly as Smoker thought, but was firmly grasped in Rorschach's palm. The next second, a voice came from Rorschach's mind, "Ding! Congratulations on obtaining a natural smoke fruit fragment ×1. Rorschach swallowed his saliva, but now there was no time to think about the new function, and now the three of them were looking at him. Rorschach sat up from the bed, waved his hand, and a stream of white smoke shot out from his palm. In an instant, the smoke hit the wall like a small ball. When the smoke dissipated, the wall had sunk to a depth of 5 centimeters. Rorschach looked at the wall that he had damaged, and his heart skipped a beat. Rorschach swallowed unconsciously and shouted the next second, "It's over! It's over! I don't have money to pay. It's so deep, I can't pay it even if I sell myself." At this time, Rorschach seemed to think of something and gently pulled Zifa, who was sitting on the side. "Teacher Zifa, how much money do I have to pay for this level of damage?" However, no one spoke, and the air seemed to be quiet. Rorschach's mouth twitched, and he pulled Zifa again. "Teacher Zifa." "Ah? Little Rorschach, what's wrong?" Rorschach was about to vomit blood at this moment, and he still asked what happened? "Didn't you see that there was a hole in the wall?" "Ahem, I made a hole in the wall in front of me. Do you want to pay for it?" Rorschach asked tentatively. Even if he had to pay in the end, at most he could ask Mr. Carp to come and pay. Zeph curled his lips and waved his hand. "It's okay. This is a naval hospital. No need to pay. Also, can you do that move again?" Zephyr asked. Yes, Tina is also very curious. This is obviously Smoker's smoke. Why can Rorschach do it? And it feels like it's more powerful than Smoker's. Zeph and Tina talked about Rorschach in unison. At this moment, Smoker was so embarrassed that he almost tapped his toes on the ground. But he was also very curious, so this time Smoker took off both gloves. The next second, Smoker condensed smoke in his hands, and the smoke gradually grew larger, almost the size of a basketball. Smoker then handed the smoke ball to Rorschach. Rorschach's mouth twitched, but he still took it. As soon as he received it, Rorschach used his hands to press the smoke again and again, and gradually the smoke ball changed again and again. Change, but in just a few seconds, the smoke became smaller again, and Rorschach could pick it up with one hand. Rorschach swallowed his saliva. He really couldn't guarantee how powerful it was now, but the information from his mind told him that the power would definitely not be smaller than before. "Ahem, that Zifa teacher, are you really going to do it again?" Rorschach asked tentatively. "Well, come on, I'll be responsible if something goes wrong." Rorschach sighed. "Okay, you're responsible anyway, so even if I make a hole in the wall, it's your fault." Rorschach grinned, and the next second Rorschach bent his arm and smashed it directly towards the wall. The moment the compressed smoke came into contact with the wall, it exploded directly, and a big hole was blown in the wall. The whole wall was smashed down directly. Fortunately, there was no one next door, otherwise Rorschach would have killed someone. Although it was nothing, it was not very good. Smoker, who watched the whole process, looked unhappy. He even shook his hands in disbelief, muttering, "Could it be that my smoke is really that powerful? I don't know if it was an illusion or something," but Smoker's eyes suddenly lit up. Of course, it could also be that Rorschach saw it wrong. At this time, Rorschach finally reacted and grabbed Zifa's arm. "Teacher Zifa, you said that you are fully responsible for my attack. If you ask me to pay, I don't have money." Zifa pulled down Rorschach's hands and said unhappily, "You guy, don't you know that your ability is more valuable than a wall now?" Yes, Tina suddenly felt that my ability was like a scum. Compared to Rorschach, it's really weak. Tina is sad. Just then the door of the ward was pushed open, and a doctor in a white coat walked in. His angry face instantly turned into a smile. "Hello, Instructor Zifa, what happened here? Why was it hit like this?" Zifa waved his hand. "Go to Zhangguo to get reimbursement, and say that I said it, you have nothing to do here." Chapter 12. As soon as the medical staff left, Zifa grabbed Rorschach's glowing hands. "Can you use your hands like this?" Tina thinks that the smoke Rorschach just threw seems to be more powerful than Smoker's. Rorschach smiled awkwardly and pulled back his hands when Zifa wasn't paying attention. "Teacher Zifa, Tina, I just had a flash of inspiration, it's just a coincidence." Rorschach smiled awkwardly, and then Smoker gently patted Rorschach on the shoulder and asked, "Can your ability enhance the destructive power of elements?" "But, maybe." Rorschach was forced to ask for a long time in this atmosphere. Finally, a few hours later, Rorschach followed Zifa and the other two out of the hospital. It was already dark at this time, and Rorschach returned to the room alone. As soon as he returned to the room, Rorschach couldn't wait to check the system backpack. At this time, there were about 5 fragments of the smoke fruit in the backpack. This is what shocked Luoxia. Just by asking Smoker for 2 clouds of smoke, this kind of thing can be generated. Just when Luoxia was shocked, the voice of the system suddenly sounded, ding. System reminder. Collect any kind of natural fruit fragments to synthesize a complete fruit. When the system said this, Luoxia's heart trembled and his mood became excited. Luoxia swallowed his saliva unconsciously. Obviously he was very excited. If I collect 100 shining fruits, doesn't that mean that I can synthesize a complete shining fruit? Yes, host. After hearing the voice of the system again, Luoxia was completely relieved. In this way, Zhang Qi slowly fell asleep. He slept until 7 o'clock the next morning. Rorschach opened his eyes with difficulty, and after washing, he became much more awake. Zephyr Elite Training Camp. At this moment, Zephyr was standing at the front. Today we are going to learn the 6 styles of the Navy. Maybe some of us don't know the 6 styles of the Navy. Today, I will introduce what the 6 styles of the Navy are. Zephyr walked slowly beside the students with his hands behind his back, looking like a strict teacher. The 6 styles of the Navy are divided into 6 moves: shaving, iron block, paper painting, moon part, storm kick, and paper gun. It is a physical skill that exceeds the limit of human physical fitness. It is extremely powerful. If you learn all of them, even the devil fruit ability users will have the power to fight. Of course, our general officers will know 3 or 4, and their 6 styles of the Navy have reached the level of proficiency. Rorschach nodded secretly. He had wanted to learn it for a long time. He knew the 6 styles of the Navy when he watched anime in his previous life, especially the moon cloth and shaving. These 2 are what Rorschach wants to learn the most. As for the iron block, only a fool would learn it, right? Isn't that just standing still and letting people hit you? If the enemy is stronger, it's possible to kill him directly, Rorschach thought secretly. In short, except for the iron block, the other 5 of the 6 Navy styles are pretty good. Then first of all, I will teach you how to use the shave. To shave, you need to stomp on the ground dozens of times in a second to produce explosive reaction to move at high speed. This is also how to use the shave. After Zifa finished speaking, he demonstrated it himself. Zifa disappeared in an instant and appeared in front of a student in an instant. The whole process was very smooth. Okay, boys, try it yourself. As soon as Zifa finished speaking, most of the students began to experiment, but they were all doing useless work, which was completely different from what Zifa did. Rorschach rubbed his chin for a while. The next second, Rorschach quickly stomped on the ground 10 times. At this moment, Rorschach actually disappeared. When he appeared again, there was an iron net used to divide the training ground in front of him. Rorschach just ran straight up. Ah! It hurts. Rorschach stood up quickly and covered his face. At this time, Zifa came over, patted Rorschach on the shoulder with his big hand and laughed, "Good boy, you did a good job. Pay attention to the direction control when releasing the shave, otherwise you will hit the guardrail like Luo boy." Zafel grabbed Rorschach's shoulder and popularized it to the other students. For a while, all the students laughed, and at the same time, they were very envious of Rorschach for actually succeeding in one look. "Look at that kid, his whole face is full of marks, it's really funny." Smoker curled his lips with disdain. Little did he know that all of this was heard by Rorschach. Rorschach glared at Smoker, and the next second Rorschach used the shave again and disappeared on the spot. When he appeared again, he appeared in front of Smoker. "Smelly boy, what are you talking about?" Smoker instantly turned into smoke and retreated several meters. Seeing that the two were about to fight, many students around them dispersed instantly. At this moment, there were only enough for 2 people on the training ground. People are in opposition. Tina retreated to Zifa's side, and when she saw that Zifa had no intention of stopping him, she understood what Zifa meant. "Humph, Smoke Man, are you ready to be beaten?" Rorschach cracked his fingers and made a crackling sound. "Humph, damn! The brat is so arrogant. I'm not a Smoke Man." In an instant, Smoker's arm turned into smoke and hit Rorschach. Rorschach's hands instantly emitted a green light and caught Smoker's fist. At the same time, the mechanical sound in Rorschach's mind kept ringing, "Congratulations on obtaining smoke fragment ×1. Congratulations on obtaining smoke fruit fragment ×1. Congratulations." Rorschach's mouth corners slightly raised, and only he knew how excited he was at this moment. "You little brat, you dare to laugh when you fight me. Instantly, Smoker rushed to Rorschach like a spring. Rorschach did not dodge or evade. With a green light in his hand, he dug a large piece of smoke from his waist and threw it directly at Smoker, who was in the smoke. After Rorschach strengthened this piece of smoke, its power was very strong. Smoker looked at the slightly green smoke coming towards him without dodging or evading. But the next second, the smoke exploded less than 1 meter away from Smoker, and the strong airflow forced Smoker back dozens of meters. How is it possible? This is my smoke. How can it hurt me? Hey, brat, why is that? Rorschach curled his lips innocently. I don't know, don't ask me. Humph, damn it. I'll beat you up until you answer. The moment he finished speaking, Smoker rushed towards Rorschach like an engine. Rorschach didn't dodge and directly started to pick at Smoker. He picked up a ball of smoke and threw it without aiming. Every time he threw it, a big hole would explode on the ground. He almost hit Zephyr just now. When the two were fighting, a pair of black hands stopped them. Are you two bastards going to blow up the training ground? The next second, the two were thrown out by a pair of big hands. Two loud noises made the members watching the show around once again witness the horror of Zephyr. Chapter 13. Because the two of them didn't react to Zepha's arrival, they really fell to the ground. Rorschach rolled on the ground with his hands on his buttocks, wailing, "It hurts. It hurts so much." On the other side, Smoker didn't feel as bad as Rorschach, but he was also hit hard. At this moment, Zepha's forehead was bulging with veins. He looked around. The ground was full of pits and small pits, which made him very unhappy and his fists itched. Tina, who was standing by, saw Zepha like this and retreated dozens of meters without making a sound. After Tina retreated 10 meters away, Zepha's roar followed, Rorschach, Smoker. For a while, the sound spread rapidly, and even some officers and soldiers outside the training ground heard Zepha's roar. Some of them were Zepha's former students, and they all shuddered unconsciously. An ordinary-looking soldier said, "Are the students of this year's class so powerful? They can make teacher Zepha so angry. With this level of anger, I guess only the first batch of students in Zepha's elite class can do it. I don't know which student did it." Zephyl didn't hear the discussion of these people, not to mention that Zepha, the Black Wrist, would not care. Now his attention is all on the two people on the ground. The two who just stood up looked at each other, and 2 drops of cold sweat dripped from their foreheads. "Stinky boy, what's wrong with this purple-haired old turtle? Why is he so angry?" Smoker said weakly. "I don't know either. Didn't you see the pits on the ground? Those were all done by you, Smoker. I think if teacher Zepha wants to fight, it will be you, right?" Rorschach actually still knows who did it, but now he wants to push it all to Smoker so that he won't feel guilty. "You're talking nonsense." Smoker regretted it as soon as he said it, because he found that Zepha was staring at him. "You bastard, dare to say that I'm talking nonsense? It seems that I have to deal with you first before dealing with Rorschach." As soon as the voice fell, Zepha disappeared instantly, and appeared again in front of Smoker. Smoker was about to run when he was caught by Zepha's hands. "It's over. Domineering, it's domineering," Smoker complained bitterly. Rorschach, who was standing by, laughed in his heart when he saw Smoker being caught in his hand, and then he quietly ran along the edge to behind Tina. This process only took 10 seconds, and this was because Rorschach used the shaving. "Hey? Rorschach, why are you hiding behind Tina? And your shaving is much better than Tina's." In the far corner, the sound of bang 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 could be heard from time to time. Of course, with each punch, Smoker's screams could be heard on the training ground. It was a horrible sight. "Tisk tisk tisk, this Smoke man is really miserable," he was beaten black and blue. Luoxia stood behind Tina and grinned. "You are still laughing, Tina, do you think it will be your turn soon? Be careful, you will be beaten worse than Smoker, Tina will not pity you then." Tina rolled her eyes at Rorschach. She didn't quite understand Rorschach's gloating behavior. But for Rorschach, who was an earthling in his previous life, he still liked to watch this kind of excitement, especially when others were beaten. If he had a mobile phone, Rorschach would even post a circle of friends. Smoker finally stopped after a while, and Smoker's screams also stopped. Although he hasn't fainted yet, his face was bruised and purple and looked a bit scary. Zephyr turned around and glared at Zhang Qi, as if to say, "Why don't you roll over here and let me beat you?" Tina advises you to get beaten early, otherwise teacher Zifa will be scary when he gets angry, and you don't want to get beaten, right? Tina kindly advised. You are not kindly comforting, girl, you are asking me to jump into the fire pit, don't you see how badly Smoker was beaten? I won't go. Rorschach curled his lips. It was obvious that this proposal was not friendly to him. He would not be stupid enough to run to Zifa and get beaten. Suddenly, a sentence appeared in his mind, he wants to run. Rorschach then cast his eyes on his shoes, and inspiration followed. Zeph was walking towards Rorschach step by step at this moment. Although his expression was not fierce, he also looked like he was going to beat Rorschach. Tina poked Rorschach, who was squatting on the ground fiddling with his shoes. Hey, Rorschach, stop fiddling with your shoes, and go to teacher Zifa obediently. As long as you admit your mistakes obediently, Tina thinks you should not be beaten. The students on the side were also saying, yes, Rorschach, stop playing with your shoes and get beaten up. What if Mr. Zephyr gets angry and punishes us like last time? Perhaps it was because these people were buzzing in Rorschach's ears that bothered him, or perhaps it was because he was nervous about being beaten. Rorschach's hands trembled a little, but it was precisely because of this tremor that Rorschach felt that the things he had merged into his shoes were successful. Before he could be happy, a cold voice reached Rorschach's ears, you are hiding well. Rorschach felt cold from head to toe in an instant. Damn it! Run! In an instant, Rorschach used the shaving technique and disappeared in front of Zephyr, and appeared again in front of Smoker. Smoking man, I ran first. Rorschach did not use the shave. Excessive use of the shave would quickly consume his physical strength. He had just tinkered with his shoes, so he gave it a try. Zephyr, who felt that Rorschach was about to run, was not so eager to chase him. Instead, he slowly walked towards Rorschach and asked him to run for a few minutes before chasing him. Rorschach stepped on the ground and ran quickly. He was not limited to training. He wanted to run back to Garp's villa this time. This was the safest, so he ran desperately at the beginning. A minute later, Zifa instantly used the shave to chase him. It can also be said that it was a multi-stage shave. The shave was also very smooth in Zifa's hands. Slippery. But Zifa was frowning at this time, because he felt that he could never catch up with Rorschach. Or to say, he kept a fixed distance. Because Zifa was behind him, Rorschach had to run desperately. Now Rorschach almost cursed Zifa in his heart, it seemed like a cat and mouse game. The two of them were running away and chasing, and there were many naval generals and soldiers cheering for them along the way. Now Rorschach is like this, he runs, he chases, he can't escape. Rorschach even surrendered. Suddenly Rorschach's eyes lit up, and the two people in front of him made him very familiar, and the panic in Rorschach's heart also dissipated a little. Chapter 14. Rorschach also sped up his movements and quickly ran behind the two. Crunch, crunch. Garp chewed on the senbei with an innocent expression, and was a little confused as to why Zifa was chasing Rorschach. At the same time, Jun beside Garp looked at Zifa in confusion. Huff, huff, huff. Rorschach was panting heavily, and he must be very tired after running for so long. Zef, why are you chasing this kid? And judging from the look of you, old man, do you have some physical illness? You haven't caught up with this kid for so long. Garp said gloatingly. Bullshit. I won't chase this brat for fun. As for why I chased this bastard, it's because he and Smoker had a fight and destroyed my training ground. Smoker was beaten by me, and he is no exception. Ji-Yuan, Garp, you two, get out of my way. Zeph waved his hand and was about to catch Rorschach, but Rorschach suddenly grabbed Ji-Yuan's shoulder. Sister Ji-Yuan, you must stop teacher Zifa for me, otherwise I will be beaten to a pulp. Rorschach witnessed Smoker's miserable appearance on the spot. He had never been beaten by others, not to mention that it must be painful for Zifa to hit people with his big hands. Seeing that Zifa was about to push the two away to catch him, Garp and Ji-Yuan took the lead and stood in front of Zifa. Zeph, I have something to do with this guy today, I can't let you beat me up. Zeph was stunned and asked, what's the matter? Garp pointed to Ji-Yuan next to him. Ji-Yuan was asked by me to teach this guy swordsmanship, and this kid also has some talent in swordsmanship. My grandson Ace is a pirate, so I want to train an admiral and bring that guy to the navy. Zeph's mouth twitched subconsciously after hearing Garp's reason. It's not that Zeph looks down on Garp, but he knows that whether Garp trains his grandson or son, one is in the Revolutionary Army and the other is now a pirate. Okay, I'll give you a face and let this matter go. If it happens again, I will beat him up. Zeef said viciously. At this time, Ji Yuan shook his shoulders lightly, turned his head with a smile in his eyes and asked, Brother Luoxia, is my shoulder soft? Soft, not bad. Luoxia said subconsciously, and quickly stepped back after realizing that something was wrong. Hey, kid, I'll let you go today, but I have a question, you have to tell me. Luoxia, who had just relaxed, became alert again, but when he heard Zifa was going to ask him a question, Luoxia nodded. How did you run just now? I just tried my best but couldn't catch up, why? Zifa was very confused about this, but he firmly believed that Luoxia must have made something again. Luoxia touched his chin, considering whether to tell about his modified shoes. If he told Zifa, the purple-haired old turtle, what would happen if he was punished by 50 laps again? Little did he know that Three Eyes were quietly watching him at this moment. After thinking it over again and again, Rorschach decided to tell it, otherwise he might get beaten if he was found out. Well, it's nothing, actually. It's just a little thing I said behind Tina when Zifa beat Smoker just now. What is it? The three asked in unison. Rorschach took a step back, slowly raised his foot, pointed at the shoes and said, it's this pair of shoes. Something has been integrated into it. Zafel teacher, you can't be faster than the wind, right? The wind is everywhere, it's reasonable for me to run so fast, right? Suddenly thinking of something, Rorschach scratched his head and smiled awkwardly. Unfortunately, because I was afraid of being beaten just now, my hand shook and created the birth of this pair of shoes. The synthesis formula, I can't remember it at all. For a moment, the space seemed to be still. Zifa took a deep breath and tried to suppress his anger. I thought so, otherwise how could I, Zifa, not be able to catch up with you? Rorschach smiled helplessly. Yes, teacher Zifa is definitely better than me. Then Zifa talked to Garp and left. At the same time, Rorschach patted Garp on the shoulder and asked, Old man, what do you two want from me? Rorschach was also confused. What could Ji Yuan want from him? And Rorschach didn't want to follow Ji Yuan all the time. If he was seen by Shatun, he would be miserable. Now he can only beat Smoker. Ha 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 ha, it's like this. I think you have some talent in Kendo, so I invited Ji Yuan to teach you. Garp put his arm around Rorschach's shoulder and said, how is it, I'm still good to you, right? Ji Yuan's swordsmanship is also one of the best in the navy. Now you have to help me make some more senbei for me to try. The last one is all eaten. Rorschach curled his lips. Although he was angry, he couldn't say it. Moreover, this old man actually made a decision on his own. Damn it! Hehe, I don't rely so much on swordsmanship. Then, finding someone to teach me swordsmanship, is... What? I'm a candidate admiral. Can't I teach you swordsmanship? Are you looking down on me, kid? Luoxia was interrupted when he was about to say something, and Ji Yuan also started to talk non-stop, like a grudge. Luoxia waved his hands repeatedly, no, I still know the name of Ji Yuan, the candidate general. It is my honor to let you teach me swordsmanship. Luoxia had a smile on his face, but he was actually very reluctant. Humph, it's not impossible for me to teach you, but you have to agree to one condition of mine, otherwise, forget it. Ji Yuan smiled proudly, she had thought about it when she came. Luoxia curled her lips, speechless. No, there is another condition. What condition? Bailey? Or senbei? Bailey, even if you sell me, I am not worth much. If you want senbei, you can have as many as you want, so many that you can be stuffed to death. Rorschach has given up now. This Ji Yuan obviously wants to teach him swordsmanship, and she probably has her eyes on a certain item in her synthesis ability, otherwise why would a candidate general make such a condition? Ji Yuan glared at Rorschach. Humph, I don't want berry, let alone senbei. Garp, if you don't want it, I want it. I want it, I want it. Are you interested in me? Do you want me to warm your bed? Rorschach blurted out, and he covered his mouth as soon as he said it, obviously a little regretful. Of course, it was only a little. Chapter 15. Luoxia felt a chill on his back, and the next moment a strong wind blew past Luoxia's ears, and Luoxia's hair was cut off. Good dong. Luo Xia swallowed his saliva and said in horror, "It's really dangerous. I almost lost my life." At this time, Ji Yuan smiled and patted Luo Xia's shoulder. "Luo Xia, don't say the wrong thing. Although I dare not kill you, I can still do such a thing." Luo Xia looked at Ji Yuan, who was smiling in front of him, and kept cursing in his heart, "Asshole woman, wait until I synthesize a treasure that is enough to beat your treasure, and see how I will deal with you." Luo Xia wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and sat down on the ground. "Sister Ji Yuan, after talking for so long, what is your condition? Even if you tell me, I may not be able to help you." Ji Yuan glared at Luo Xia, and then directly put the golden pilgrim hanging on his waist between the two of them. "This is a knife of the same quality as yours, maybe even better. I want this knife to be like yours, but I want the cold air." Luo Xia's mouth twitched. He originally thought that Ji Yuan would let her synthesize something small, but this woman really didn't stop until she said something shocking. "She actually wanted to be like my tiger hunter?" Luo Xia thought in his heart, and the tiger hunter on his wrist turned into a ball of fire and fell in front of Luo Xia. "Sister Ji Yuan, you are a candidate general, and you don't have any weapons on your waist. Are you sure you want me to do this? Won't this affect your style of going out to sea to kill the enemy?" Ji Yuan shook her head and nodded. Luo Xia frowned and asked, "What do you mean?" "You shook your head and nodded. What do you mean?" Luo Xia's tone was a little bad, but Ji Yuan didn't care. Instead, he said, "The meaning is very simple. I don't want the kind of bracelet that can turn the knife into a bracelet that can be hung on the wrist. I want the blade to be attached with cold air." At this point, Luo Xia's face turned black, but Ji Yuan didn't look at Luo Xia's face, but talked to herself. "I have observed your knife. It can turn into flames. It should be your ability to integrate the flames into the blade, so it is like this. So with your supernatural ability, you can do it." Luo Xia curled his lips and sat on the ground, speechless. Luo Xia now wanted to be beaten by Zifa. This request of Ji Yuan was too much, right? Although he is a synthesizer, he is not a god. Where can he get the ice fruit or the frozen fruit? You have to know that Rorschach's knife can become like this, but he used the flame fruit given by the system. Rorschach was motionless in Ji Yuan's eyes, as if he was stunned. Then Ji Yuan shook Rorschach's arm. "Hey, Rorschach brother, can you do it? You can definitely do it, right?" There were stars in Ji Yuan's eyes. Since she saw the knife on Rorschach's wrist, she couldn't help dreaming that her Kinpera could do the same every day. After a few days of dreams, Ji Yuan found Capra and asked Cap to find Rorschach, but she didn't expect to meet Zifa and beat Rorschach. This is still quite difficult, and a lot of materials are needed. The most important thing is ice. Speaking of ice, Rorschach unconsciously thought of Kuzan in his mind, and instantly a wave of memories emerged in Rorschach's mind, a series of memories about elements, especially about ice. Rorschach shook his head, and his eyes became clear again. At this time, Luo Xia also found that Ji Yuan was shaking her arms, which looked somewhat sexy. "Okay, Sister Ji Yuan, stop shaking, or you will be dizzy." After hearing Luo Xia's words, Ji Yuan took back her hand and sat on the ground together. She wanted to listen carefully to Luo Xia's next words. "Sister Ji Yuan, you can change your famous sword into that shape, but you have to find a way to catch Admiral Aokiji, otherwise I can't help you." Luo Xia's words were shocking, and Garp, who was eating senbei, suddenly stopped and looked at Luo Xia with an incredible face. Ji Yuan was even more surprised, and her beautiful eyes stared at Luo Xia. "Why are you two looking at me?" Luo Xia scratched his head. "Is there no one with the ability of the ice fruit in the navy?" "Pa!" Luo Xia was slapped on the head. Just as he was about to curse, he heard Garp's rough voice saying, "You little brat, you are getting more and more rude. You asked Ji Yuan to catch Kuzan, what do you think?" Ji Yuan glared at Luo Xia and said speechlessly, "Your younger brother, I am a candidate for the general, and he is a general, and a naturalist, what can I use to catch it? Are you dissatisfied that I am not dying fast enough?" Ji Yuan stretched out a hand and twisted Luo Xia's ear and began to lecture him. But fortunately, there were no marines around, and no one dared to approach even if there were. Perhaps the three of them also knew that it was not good to sit on the ground like this, so they cleaned up Luo Xia and walked towards Garp's villa. 10 minutes later, the three of them sat on the sofa. Luo Xia couldn't help but sigh as soon as he sat down. "This is much better than my apartment. When can I have a villa like this? Simple, as long as you reach the level of admiral candidate. Luoxia was silent when he heard Ji Yuan's words. If he could reach the level of admiral, he would have to wait a few more years. Forget it for now. Brother Luoxia, what did you mean just now? What do you mean? Ji Yuan glared at Luoxia and said unhappily, you just said that if you want to make your kind of knife, you must first capture General Quzhan. What do you mean? You mean this? Luoxia slapped his forehead and finally remembered, don't you want your knife with ice attribute? Then there's nothing wrong with me saying to capture General Quzhan. Since you want the ice attribute, General Quzhan, who is the user of the ice fruit ability, is the most suitable. At this point, Garp and Ji Yuan nodded in unison. Only then did they understand what Luoxia meant. Humph, Luoxia brother, why did you say so earlier? Why did you have to be so rogue and ask me to capture General Aokiji? Wouldn't it be better to capture him? I can use ice anytime and anywhere, so I will be more confident in making the knife you want. Rorschach shrugged, looking indifferent. Ji Yuan secretly clenched his fists, stood up and walked out without looking back. When he reached the door, Ji Yuan spoke, wait, I'll go call General Aokiji over. After saying that, Ji Yuan disappeared in front of the two. Chapter 16. Ji Yuan looked worried as she walked on the road. She exuded an aura of keeping strangers away. The officers and soldiers she met along the way consciously avoided Ji Yuan. Should I go to Marshal Zhang Guo or General Qing Ji? But time did not give her time to hesitate. Soon she walked to Qing Ji's office. Knock, knock, knock. Ji Yuan knocked on the door. Come in. Qing Ji's lazy voice came from the room. Ji Yuan took a deep breath and walked inside. As soon as he entered the office, Ji Yuan found that only Qing Ji was lying lazily on the sofa. Aokiji lifted the blindfold covering his eyes and asked in surprise, ah, I didn't expect it was you, Ji Yuan. What do you want to talk to me about? Ji Yuan sat on the sofa beside him consciously and said hesitantly, General Aokiji, can you do me a small favor? Aokiji raised his lazy eyelids, what favor? I don't know if you have heard of Rorschach. Aokiji nodded, Rorschach still knows, the synthesis kid, very interesting fruit ability. You can see it when you have time. Ji Yuan was delighted and said immediately, I need General Aokiji for this favor, and this is what I asked Brother Rorschach to do. Oh? What favor is it? Could it be that this kid has designed something interesting again? In Aokiji's opinion, since this candidate general asked him to help, it should not be an ordinary matter, so he decided to go and see. Ah, let's go and have a look. I also want to see that synthesizer. The two of them walked out of the office one after the other. At the same time, in Garp's villa, Rorschach looked very impatient, but he still had to synthesize senbei in his hands. And Garp found a big sack of senbei from somewhere. In just a moment, Garp had 3 more sacks full of senbei. I guess they were all senbei. Stinky old man, considering that you helped me escape from Zifa's clutches, I will reluctantly give you some senbei. On the other side, Aokiji and Ji Yuan were walking towards Garp's villa, and suddenly a figure appeared in front of them. The man looked wretched, his eyes narrowed into a slit and he looked at Ji Yuan with a squint look. Momotobu, please marry me. After saying that, Kaji took out a bouquet of roses from somewhere and stared at Momotobu eagerly. Dao Tu's eyes showed undisguised disgust, and she slapped the rose that Kaji had put down. Shitun, I can't possibly marry you. If I do, I'll marry a brother like Rorschach. Shitun was stunned and then asked, who is Rorschach? I won't let him go. If you dare to be rude to him, I won't let you go. At this moment, Dao Tu's toughness was also revealed. Ah, Dao Tu, should we go to the synthesis boy first? Shitun looked up, and at this moment, Aokiji looked at him with drooping eyes, his expression was very indifferent. General Aokiji. Aokiji nodded in response. Then Aokiji ignored the two and walked straight to Garp's villa. Dao Tu, who reacted, hurried to catch up, and Shitun followed closely behind. There was no conversation along the way, and soon the 3 finally arrived at Garp's villa. The 3 were shocked to see that there were more than a dozen sacks in the whole villa, and they were all filled to the brim. Garp stood beside Rorschach with an excited look on his face, holding the edge of the sack with both hands. Rorschach heard a sound coming from the door, looked up, and saw 3 people headed by Aokiji. Rorschach's eyes lit up, and he immediately pulled his hand back. Stinky boy, who can eat this? How can you take your hand back? Rorschach pouted and looked reluctant, and turned his head away. Hey! Garp-san! Garp looked up and saw 3 people standing in front of him. Only then did Garp know why Rorschach didn't help him make senbei. Garp looked back at the more than 10 sacks of senbei and felt secretly happy. Now let's see how this guy Zhang Guo compares with me. After everyone sat down, before Rorschach could speak, Shaitan, who was sitting opposite him, spoke first. Are you Rorschach? The one that Dao Tu wants to marry? Rorschach was confused and turned to look at Ji Yuan, who looked like he was on the verge of getting angry. He didn't look very happy. Shaitan! Shut up, I'll kill you if you keep talking nonsense. Rorschach swallowed and reached out to pull Garp, who was crunching next to him. Ah! What's up, Luo boy? Rorschach pointed at Shaitan, who was sitting on the sofa with a wretched look on his face. This Vice Admiral wants to kill me. As soon as I came out, the time seemed to be still, especially the T-Dolphin, staring at Rocha who pointed at himself. 1. He didn't even fall in the wind. He couldn't even fight, not to mention Carp. Rocha. He thought that this wretched uncle would be hard to the end, letting Mr. Carp beat him. Strong, he was a Earthman. Shaitan nodded seriously. He had to be serious. Garp was watching him closely. If he didn't answer quickly, he was afraid that he would be beaten out of the villa, and it would be extremely miserable. Rorschach stood up and sat down next to Admiral Aokiji, grinning. Admiral Aokiji, didn't Sister Ji Yuan tell you? Ah, what are you going to do again? You even called me here. Aokiji was still very interested in his ability. After Ji Yuan placed her sword Kinpura in front of him, Rorschach didn't waste any words, and his hands instantly turned light blue. At this time, Rorschach's mind instantly flooded with the method of making elemental weapons. Knowing what to do, Rorschach said to Aokiji, General Aokiji, please release your cold energy and condense it on my hands. It doesn't matter if they freeze. After saying this, Aokiji looked at Rorschach in surprise. After seeing Rorschach's determined eyes, he did not hesitate. He released cold energy from his hands and an apple-sized ice ball of cold energy condensed between his hands. General Aokiji, can you pass the ice ball to me? Rorschach's question somewhat confused Aokiji. What does it mean to pass this ice ball to him? Seeing that Aokiji was still motionless, Rorschach did not wait any longer and grabbed it directly. Chapter 17. As Rorschach's hands gradually enlarged in Aokiji's eyes, when Rorschach had already touched the ice ball formed by the cold air, Aokiji's heart skipped a beat. He knew how lethal the ice ball of cold air he had condensed was. It only took a moment to kill a pirate worth over 100 million, not to mention Rorschach. But the shocking scene happened right in front of him. Rorschach just took the ice ball from Aokiji's hand lightly, and Rorschach himself looked indifferent, as if he was very skilled. Rorschach was delighted the moment he touched the ice ball. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the nature system, frozen fruit fragments ×2. Rorschach was ecstatic. He guessed right, but Rorschach still looked indifferent on the surface, holding the ice ball in both hands. Aokiji was shocked when he saw this scene. As a user of the ice fruit ability, how could he not know how cold the cold air in Rorschach's hand was? Especially since Rorschach was holding the ice ball in front of him. Rorschach didn't care about Aokiji's gaze, but held the ice ball tightly with both hands. The green light on his hands was bright, and the cold air in his hands was constantly compressed. Not long after, the ice ball, which had shrunk by 2 circles, appeared in front of everyone. Under everyone's gaze, Rorschach pressed the ice ball directly towards the sword of Kinpura. Rorschach nodded silently, and the picture in his mind was like this. Seeing that Luoxia no longer had the ice ball in his hand, Ji Yuan asked, Brother Luoxia, is it completed? No, it will probably take many more times. This will require General Aokiji. Luoxia shook his head and explained. According to the hint in his mind just now, he probably needs 49 times to get a frozen fruit, which is 100 fragments. For this top-level fruit, Luoxia's eyes are shining at this moment, and he looks at Aokiji with an unconcealable enthusiasm. Synthesis brother. Just as Luoxia was thinking about it, a slightly lazy voice sounded. Luoxia looked up and saw that it was Aokiji. At this moment, Aokiji's eyes were indescribably complicated. General Aokiji, what's wrong with you? Are your hands okay? Luoxia looked at his hands, which were now emitting a faint blue light, and they didn't look like they were in trouble at all. Rorschach shook his head, "It's okay." This time Aokiji was even more confused. He scratched his head, "Brother Synthesis, the ice ball I just condensed can freeze people to death. Are you okay?" Because the whole audience is basically above the strength of Vice Admiral, only Rorschach has low strength, so Aokiji is naturally surprised. "It's okay, I have a special ability." Aokiji scratched his head. He really couldn't figure it out, so he just gave up. Then he continued to condense an ice ball for Rorschach. For a while, there was only the crisp sound of Rorschach pressing Kinpura and the crackling sound of Garp in the room. The temperature of the entire villa living room also dropped sharply with the ice ball made by Aokiji. Shatun began to yawn, which was enough to show how cold it was. However, Rorschach, who was in an excited state, did not feel cold. Instead, he became more and more excited. Because the prompt sound kept coming from his mind. Ding! Congratulations on getting 2 pieces of natural ice fruit fragments. Ding! Congratulations on getting 2 pieces of natural ice fruit fragments. More than an hour had passed. Although Rorschach had frost on his face, he seemed very happy because he only needed to press the last ice ball into the Kimpyro and the job would be done. At this time, the 100 pieces of ice blue fragments in Rorschach's system backpack were lying quietly in the system space. As Rorschach pressed the last ice ball emitting cold air into the Kimpyro also underwent a qualitative change in an instant. The entire Kimpyro sword body completely turned into ice blue, which looked beautiful. This scene shocked everyone present. Moreover, the sword body also exuded an unparalleled cold air, which felt exactly the same as Aokiji's frozen fruit. At this time, everyone was staring blankly at the sword that Rorschach had placed on the table. At this moment, a voice came from Rorschach's mind, "Ding! It has been detected that 100 pieces of natural frozen fruit fragments have been collected, which meets the synthesis requirements. Do you want to synthesize?" Rorschach swallowed his saliva and immediately said, "Synthesize." In an instant, an ice blue light flashed in Rorschach's mind and a frozen fruit appeared. Ding! Do you want to take the natural frozen fruit? The current number of devil fruits that can be taken is 1. Although Rorschach was a little confused, he didn't think much and immediately expressed his feelings. In an instant, the man who was originally in the villa, the people in the living room who were observing Junpiro suddenly felt a huge cold air burst out from Rorschach's body. The air wave generated by the ice fruit rushed towards the 4 people. The 4 people used their hands to resist the air wave rushing towards them, and then looked up, and now there was a person who was frozen all over. Garp was shocked, covering his head with his hands, and staring at this scene with wide eyes. Aokiji was even more shocked, he boy. At this moment, Ji Yuan also saw clearly that the figure frozen by ice was Rorschach. Rorschach! Garp stretched out his hand and grabbed Aokiji's arm with a very serious look and asked, "Kuzan, what's going on? Why did this kid become like this?" Aokiji scratched his head with a distressed look, and when he was about to step forward, the human-shaped ice block instantly cracked and Rorschach walked out of it. At this time, the palm that was originally glowing with green light has turned into ice blue, and half of Rorschach's face has been covered with ice, just like Aokiji's ability. Rorschach looked at the 4 people with a confused face and slowly asked, "You, what's wrong with you? And did you, General Aokiji, build this villa? It's so shiny." Aokiji's mouth twitched, and he was very speechless, but now was not the time to chat. He was really getting more and more curious about Rorschach. Moreover, this state was just like his frozen fruit, and a bold guess suddenly came to Aokiji's mind. "Stinky boy, this was not done by Kuzan, but by you." Rorschach frowned and slowly walked to Old Man Garp and said seriously, "How is it possible? I don't have the ability of the frozen fruit." "Don't talk nonsense, old man." If there were no traces of freezing on half of his face, Garp would believe it. At this time, Ji Yuan also said, "Brother Luoxia, you did it, take a good look at your face." As he spoke, Ji Yuan took out a mirror and placed it in front of Luoxia. Chapter 18. Luoxia took the mirror from Ji Yuan, and his eyes lit up instantly. In the mirror in front of him, half of Luoxia's face was covered with ice blue ice cubes, and he looked very handsome. "Hey, it's pretty handsome, no wonder Sister Ji Yuan wants to marry me." But Luoxia's words to himself were instantly heard by Ji Yuan, who was closest to him. Ji Yuan hit him lightly, but there was no unhappy expression on his face. Cha Tun, who was standing next to Qing Ji, saw that the two of them interacted like this, but no one had any expression. I think that sentence should not have been heard by Cha Tun, otherwise he would not be expressionless. After watching for a while, Luo Xia put down the mirror, walked to the side and touched the ice crystals on his face with his hands, and then rubbed them directly with his hands, but he didn't rub them off for a long time. It's over, it's not that this half of my face will be frozen. Luo Xia also knew that he had eaten the devil fruit, but the devil fruit can't affect the appearance of the eater, right? Besides, it was only half of his face, and he couldn't show an expression that he knew everything here, otherwise he couldn't explain it. And he really didn't know how to get rid of it. While Rorschach was rubbing the ice crystals, Aokiji, who was standing not far away, seemed to be thinking about something, then patted Garp on the shoulder and walked towards Rorschach. During the few meters, Aokiji also condensed an ice knife. Then Aokiji slashed towards the waist in the stunned expression of Rorschach, without even a trace of expression on his face, but Rorschach didn't feel any killing intent in Aokiji's eyes. With the ice knife, and the one who used the knife was a general, Rorschach was instantly cut in half, and his body was directly divided into two halves. Ji Yuan, who didn't know what was going on, widened his eyes instantly, picked up the kinpala placed aside and rushed to Aokiji. His eyes were full of anger. Asshole, General Aokiji, what are you doing? Why did you kill Luo Xia? This is my newly recognized brother, and he's not a pirate. Although Ji Yuan questioned Aokiji loudly, Aokiji still had that helpless expression, and his eyes were staring at Luo Xia from beginning to end, as if he was expecting something to happen. Luo Xia, who was cut in half, touched his upper body and looked at his cut lower body and sighed helplessly. It seems not good. Luo Xia also realized that he seemed to be exposed. Xianji's body, which was split into two halves, turned into countless pieces of ice. After undergoing some reorganization, Luo Xia regained his shape, and it was still the same image as before. Ji Yuan, who was facing Aokiji with a knife, turned his head stiffly and saw Rorschach with a silly smile on his face. Ji Yuan wiped his eyes and made sure that he saw it right. Rorschach, you were not cut off by Admiral Aokiji. Rorschach frowned. What are you talking about? How can I die? I won't die if I don't live a leisurely life. Aokiji and Garp laughed out loud when they saw this scene, especially Garp, who laughed very generously. Ha 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 ha. Just as I thought. Aokiji stared at Rorschach with burning eyes, as if staring at a treasure. The only person who was in that state just now and had the ability to freeze Capsan's villa to the core is the user of the ice fruit ability. Rorschach. I am more and more curious about you now. Aokiji said secretly. Garp walked towards Rorschach, laughing and patting his hand on his shoulder, but before he could pet him, Rorschach used the power of the ice fruit to freeze Garp's palm on the spot. Rorschach didn't know if there was armament haki on his hand. If there was, he would be in trouble. Moreover, he had never seen armament haki since he came to the pirate world. It was said that armament haki was colorless, like a kind of energy, so Rorschach naturally wanted to freeze Garp first. Stinky boy, I came here to congratulate you with good intentions, but you dared to use your power to freeze me. Rorschach sighed helplessly and pointed to the sofa that had been frozen into an ice sofa and said, I know you have a lot of questions, how about talking about it? Okay. For a while, everyone present sat on the ice sofa, but the three people except Aokiji and Rorschach were a little uncomfortable. First of all, are you surprised why I have the ability of Admiral Aokiji? The four of them nodded in unison, especially Aokiji's eyes, which were completely different from his previous sleepy eyes. At this time, his eyes were particularly bright. Rorschach activated his ability on his own, and said, this is probably the ability derived from absorbing the cold energy of Admiral Aokiji, and this power feels. It feels like it is permanent. Of course it's just a feeling. After saying that, Rorschach lowered his head guiltily. There is no way he has read few books, and he really can't find an excuse. When Rorschach said this, everyone present took a breath of cold air, and they were all shocked by the news. According to Rorschach's information on Aokiji's desk, Aokiji can be very sure that Rorschach has the ability of the synthesis fruit, but he really didn't expect this change, especially this kind of change. Especially Garp's face was stunned, his snot was running down without knowing it, and his eyes were particularly wide. He still couldn't believe it. He just took a fancy to his senbei ability at the beginning, but he didn't expect to find out after picking up Rorschach. Rorschach has the appearance of a general. After Rorschach said these words, everyone was slow to speak, and now it was Rorschach's turn to be anxious. You have to believe me. Although I don't know whether the previous synthesis fruit ability users have discovered this change, anyway, I am like this now. Rorschach was afraid that they would not believe it, and the ice blue light on his hand lit up, and an ice blue senbei instantly appeared in his palm. This scene made Luoxia a little stunned. He ate a fruit, and even the senbei tasted different? Luoxia handed the senbei to Garp's mouth. Garp took a bite, and a sense of coolness instantly burst into his mouth. Wow! This is delicious. I like this taste. Ice cold. Luoxia spread his hands and looked at Jiyuan and Aokiji. Look, this is really a synthesis ability. Well, it feels like a dual fruit ability, what do you think, Daotu? Daotu nodded, yes, General Aokiji, this is a dual fruit, synthesis plus freezing, so powerful. Brother Luoxia, this is really amazing, we must tell Marshal Sengoku. Seeing that Aokiji rarely had this serious expression, Luoxia also nodded. Zhang Guo will know about this sooner or later, it's just a matter of time. Anyway, Rorschach is very good at making up lies, no matter what Zhang Guo says, he can fool him. I'm fine, General Aokiji. That's good, I'll take my leave first. Chapter 19. Not long after, Aokiji knocked on the door of Zhang Guo's office. Knock, knock. Come in. Aokiji walked into the office with his hands in his pockets. As soon as he entered the office, he found that not only Zhang Guo but also Crane was in the office. Aokiji scratched his head and didn't know how to start for a while. He just stood in front of the two. Kuzan, what's wrong with you? After hearing Zhang Guo's words, Kuzan said, there is something, and it's very complicated to talk about it. Zhang Guo was also very surprised to see Kuzan's expression. He hadn't seen Kuzan's expression like this for a long time. The last time he saw it was the last time. Sit down first. Zhang Guo pointed to the sofa on the side. Aokiji nodded and walked to the sofa and sat opposite Crane. After about a minute, Aokiji slowly said, Rorschach is Marshal Sengoku. You too, Ms. Tsuru, should know him, right? Tsuru nodded, yes, there are still many discussions about him recently. Jiyuan sometimes also said that the synthesis fruit is a very good ability. Sengoku also smiled and nodded, yes, what you want to say is related to him. Could it be that he has invented something different? Aokiji smiled bitterly, it should count. Unconsciously, when Aokiji said this, the scene of Rorschach being cut in half by himself but still not dying appeared in his mind. Just a few hours ago, I was asked by Jiyuan to go to Capsan's villa to help a little. When I arrived, I found that Rorschach was there, and Capsan was there too, but I didn't know until I arrived that they wanted to use my eyes to transform a knife. At this point, he couldn't help but say, could it be Jiyuan's Kinpura? Aokiji nodded, yes, and Rorschach's ability is really weird, especially weird. The fact that Aokiji said it was weird really made Zhang Guo interested. Then Rorschach asked for a ball of ice, and then I condensed a ball, the kind that can instantly kill over 100 million pirates, but he actually reached out and took it and pressed it directly on the knife. Aokiji is not the kind of person who talks a lot, but this matter is too bizarre. How can someone have the ability of a devil fruit after being frozen for a while? This is too bizarre, so Aokiji can only talk slowly and try to make the incident more reasonable. About 2 hours later, the knife was made by Rorschach, and at the same time, Rorschach was frozen the moment the knife was made. But when Capsan was about to step forward, the ice that froze Rorschach suddenly cracked, and Rorschach walked out safely, and half of his face was covered by ice crystals. It was as if I had used my ability. And Rorschach seemed to have the ability of the ice fruit in an instant. When Aokiji said this, he lowered his head all of a sudden. He really had no confidence in what he said. Because he thought it was incredible. At the same time, Zhang Guo and he looked at each other and said in unison, isn't it impossible? You just said that Rorschach has the ability to freeze. Aokiji nodded, his expression very helpless. Zhang Guo was very surprised by Aokiji's admission. You know, in his heart, Aokiji has always been a very calm person, so Aokiji is unlikely to lie, there is only one possibility. Thinking of this, even Zhang Guo, who is known as a wise general, took a breath. 2 abilities? There is no precedent for this on the sea. If this is true, the Navy will have found a treasure. Zhang Guo rubbed his hands, picked up the phone on his desk and called. At the same time, in Garp's villa, Garp took out the trembling Den Den Mushi and answered, "Who is it?" "Garp, Rorschach is with you, right? Bring him over quickly," Zhang Guo said. Garp frowned when he heard this, and then looked at Luoxia who was making the latest senbei for him, and then shook his head decisively and refused, "No time, he doesn't have time, just like that, I'm hanging up." As soon as he hung up the phone, Ji Yuan, who was sitting on the side, started laughing, "Ha ha ha ha. What are you laughing at? If I can't freeze this stinky old man, would I still be here to help him make senbei? And you said, teach me armed color, teach me everything I want to learn, otherwise don't ask me to help you make other things in the future." Luoxia's hands kept emitting ice blue senbei while saying this to Ji Yuan, but his expression was somewhat reluctant. Ji Yuan looked at it and nodded, "Okay, when it's over, I'll teach you whatever you want to learn." Rorschach curled his lips, "If you really want to repay me, you should beat this old man down for me." Ji Yuan looked at Garp and shook his head decisively, "No, no, I can't beat Vice Admiral Garp. And you, old man, although I don't have money to pay, but you actually asked me to pay with senbei, how much is enough to pay?" Rorschach said angrily. Compared to Rorschach's frustration, Zhang Guo was furious at this time. He hung up the phone heavily and stood up instantly. "Let's go, Ziahe, Aokiji, go see what Garp is busy with." This guy actually said that he and Rorschach are busy. About 10 minutes later, Zhang Guo and his group stood at the door of Garp's house and stared at this scene. At this time, there were already dozens of sacks in Garp's villa, and Rorschach still had senbei in his hand. This scene made Zhang Guo jealous. "Garp!" A sudden roar at the door scared Rorschach. Who? The three of them looked at the door together. There were 3 people at the door, Aokiji, Sengoku, and Crane. At this time, the 3 of them also walked into the villa frozen by Rorschach. "Ha ha ha ha, Sengoku, why are you here? Did you hear that I have senbei here, so you came?" After hearing what Garp said, veins popped up on Sengoku's forehead, and he glared at Garp, "Damn you, Garp! Is this what you said you didn't have time to talk about?" Sengoku grabbed the sack in front of Rorschach and grabbed a handful of senbei and stuffed it into his mouth. Crunch, crunch! The moment the senbei entered his mouth, Zhang Guo was stunned, especially the cold taste, a unique experience, he had never eaten before. Zhang Guo fell in love with this senbei. Seeing Zhang Guo stunned, he pulled Zhang Guo who was stunned and pulled him back from the stunned state. Zhang Guo then regained his serious state, and then looked around. Soon Zhang Guo saw a young man with his hands in a sack less than 1 meter away from him, fiddling with something. "Rorschach?" Zhang Guo asked tentatively. Rorschach slowly raised his head, and the half of his face that was frozen in ice immediately attracted Zhang Guo's attention. Zhang Guo was not impressed by his handsomeness, but was shocked by that half of his face. He felt as if he had met another user of the ice fruit ability. Chapter 20. Marshal Sengoku. Rorschach seemed to have reacted as soon as he finished speaking, and stood up all of a sudden. "Ahem, Marshal Sengoku, Vice Admiral Tsuru, General Aokiji, hello. It's okay, don't be nervous, Rorschach." After comforting Rorschach, Sengoku looked around the villa and indeed found that there were more than a dozen sacks in the house. "Rorschach, the sacks in this room could not be." Rorschach nodded, "The sacks contain the senbei I gave to Mr. Garp." Although Rorschach said it casually, Sengoku still clenched his fists. "By the way, Rorschach, what are the ice crystals on your face?" Sengoku pointed at Rorschach's half-face and asked. Sengoku still remembered the serious matter very clearly. Rorschach was stunned and subconsciously touched his left cheek. When his hand was on his left cheek, Rorschach felt like rubbing ice cubes. "Oh, this, I don't know, it has been there since the beginning. And Admiral Aokiji also said that I have the ability of the ice fruit." At this time, Sengoku stared at Rorschach with a burning gaze, as if he wanted to see something. "Then do you have the ability of the ice fruit?" As soon as Sengoku spoke, Aokiji and Crane stared at Rorschach. As for Ji Yuan and Garp, they had already seen it. Just now, Rorschach even froze Garp twice to resist Garp's refusal to make a senbei, and the result was predictable. Garp broke it the moment he froze it. "It counts, is it?" Rorschach recalled what he had said to the system before. How to prove it? Sengoku stared at Rorschach. He must figure out this matter, so he can't afford to make mistakes. This represents the future top combat power. After looking around, Rorschach stopped at Garp, who was eating senbei. Rorschach didn't waste words, he walked to Garp and stretched out his palm to hit Garp. In an instant, a layer of ice formed on Garp's body, until Garp was completely frozen. But it didn't take long for Garp to break the ice. The three people who saw this scene were also shocked and dropped their jaws. Aokiji was still calm, after all, he had just seen it, but Sengoku and Vice Admiral Tsuru were different. Especially Sengoku couldn't hide the smile on his face, and his eyes were full of kindness when he looked at Rorschach, as if Rorschach was a rare treasure. Rorschach shuddered when he saw this look. Perhaps noticing Rorschach's expression, Sengoku also retracted his gaze. Then several people sat on the sofa, and Sengoku grabbed a sack and started to eat senbei with a crunch sound. While eating, he asked, "Did you just get this ability, Luoxia?" "Yes, I got it when I helped Sister Jiyuan synthesize a property of the sword just now." The best explanation at present is that Luoxia answered whatever they asked, otherwise he would have no excuse. After some basic inquiries, Zhangguo finally took 5 sacks of senbei and left with Crane and Aokiji with satisfaction. As for Garp, he cursed Zhangguo behind his back. "Asshole Zhangguo, I only have less than 10 sacks of senbei left, which is not enough for me for a month." Luoxia sat with Jiyuan, and now he was panicking, fearing that Luoxia would catch him and continue to make senbei. However, Garp just complained a few words and walked in the direction where Zhangguo went. Before leaving, he said he would go to eat it back. "Hey, this old man is finally gone, I can finally go back." Rorschach was about to get up when he was pulled by a cold little hand. He turned around and saw Jiyuan holding his hand. "Hey? Jiyuan, what are you doing? Didn't you say I would teach you? Do you still want to go back and rest?" Rorschach's forehead suddenly had a few black lines and he said speechlessly, "That also has to wait for that purple-haired." "Bah, Teacher Zifa, give me some time." "Haha, don't worry, I will ask for leave for you from Instructor Zifa, and the training camp has just started. It doesn't matter if you haven't learned anything, I will teach you." Rorschach looked Jiyuan up and down and nodded, "You, okay? What do you mean?" No, actually I'm pretty good at the training camp. Teacher Zifa is only teaching the 6 styles of the Navy now." Jiyuan nodded and smiled, 6 styles of the Navy? Is it difficult? Do you want me to teach you? Just call me and I'll listen. By the way, usually they teach shaving at the beginning, isn't it difficult? Rorschach pouted, "I've learned how to shave, although I'll bump into the pole, but my talent seems to be okay." "Oh? Really?" This surprised Jiyuan a little, because she had been learning for more than 10 days at that time. Otherwise, Rorschach immediately began to prove himself. The next second, Rorschach appeared behind Jiyuan. However, it was unknown whether the ground was slippery or not. Rorschach actually pounced behind Jiyuan with his hands still on Jiyuan's back. Rorschach separated from Jiyuan in a somewhat embarrassed manner, "Ahem, I'm just not skilled. This is only the first day." The atmosphere that was completely different from that of Rorschach and Jiyuan was that of Sengoku. At this time, in Sengoku's office, Sengoku waited for more than 10 minutes and finally waited for everyone. In addition to the 3 admirals, there were also Garp, Zephyr, and Crane. They gathered here for Rorschach. Of course, they didn't know what had just happened. At this time, all these people were silent, just quietly watching Sengoku and waiting for him to speak. "Ahem, I called you here this time because I have something important to tell you." Then Sengoku looked around and said slowly, "There is another natural ability user in our navy. And he is a natural ice fruit user." For a moment, except for a few people who knew the situation and were still calm, all the other people present stood up. Especially Akainu questioned at the first time, "Isn't the ice fruit Aokiji? How could there be another one? Is he old and confused?" Of course, Akainu didn't dare to say the last sentence. Zifa also stared at Sengoku curiously. He had worked with Sengoku for so many years, so he naturally knew that he would not talk nonsense, otherwise it would damage his reputation as a wise general. Sengoku smiled slightly, and it was clear from his expression that Sengoku was very satisfied with the performance of these people. Aokiji does have the ability of the ice fruit, and our navy also has a second ice fruit ability, and we saw it in person. Lieutenant General Tsuru and Aokiji nodded at the same time and said, Marshal Sengoku is right. After the two said this, everyone was even more confused. Several people had a question in their minds, how can there be two of the same fruit? Unless the person with the fruit ability is dead. But this thought quickly disappeared from everyone's mind. End of the chapter. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.